Victor Martinez with the Eagles.
Sure.
So if you want to mute them, press the button at the base of it so the green light goes off. But if you want to do this, move it away, then you're fine. So that would be my recommendation. So you don't have to worry about each other. So if you move that door into the hall, the door is back to the and so yeah, that's what we'll do. It's a fire hazard that we want out. So try to leave the door closed so that the door.
Thank you. All right, good morning and welcome to Seminole County's Legislative Delegation. I hope everybody can hear me. Oh, we're not on air yet. All right, so I'd like to start on time, unlike the airports today, but guess we'll wait on the little green light. So, yeah. All right, we're in a holding pattern. Okay.
On air. You're good.
It's supposed to turn green.
Go ahead, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, back. Good morning and welcome to Seminole County Legislative Delegation. Our meeting, we want to start on time or as close to as we can. I've got a good crowd and I think we got some more people coming. We'll like to start off this meeting. We'll have Representative Bankson lead us in the pledge, followed by Representative Plakin with our invocation. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you would bow your heads, please. Dear Lord, thank you so much for the opportunity to assemble here and that we live in a free country. Thank you for our great governor who stands for freedom. Thank you for those here in office that share their time to serve. Help us to hold fast to our principles and values, and please grant us wisdom to listen to the needs of our county and state. Bless our men and women serving overseas and everyone here today. Grant us the patience to work together and bring us all together today as a family. Let us work together with understanding and compassion in our hearts. We pray all of this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. All right, thank you very much. Moving on to the roll call, if we could have Senator Broder please call the roll.
Chairman Smith.
Here.
Representative Bankson.
Here.
Representative Plakin.
Here.
Senator Broder. Here. Representative Placencia.
Here.
A quorum is present, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you very much, and welcome to our 2023 delegation meeting. Please be sure to grab a copy of the agenda. That's been printed in the lobby if you hadn't already got those. And as a reminder, if you'd like to speak today, you had to have filled out the card by the 4th of January and sent it in. I know we had a couple of hiccups. We got a few of those things straightened out today. I'd like to start off very quickly by everybody please silence your phone. I'd like to impose the first phone to ring buys around, but we can't do that. But it worked in the Marine Corps, it won't work here today. Would like to, obviously we have probably close to twice as many speakers signed up this year as we had last, so we want to move through our agenda so we can make sure we can hear from the public as many people as we can. If we start getting backed up, then we'll have to cut the 3-minute down, and I want to afford opportunity for everybody to speak, but we're going to try to manage the clock throughout the day. Any delegation, as we know, would like to speak. As we get into those speakers, just work through the chair, please. We're going to have some welcoming remarks. And we'd like to first start off with, and you'll see some of these people again, but recognize we've got Chairman Amy Lockhart here with us today, and she'll speak. Thank you, Amy. We got the best sheriff in the state of Florida, Sheriff Dennis Lima in the back. So. And I know we have members from the school board, Amy Pinnock, Abby Sanchez here. We've got our clerk of the courts, Grant Malloy, is with us today. And I didn't see anybody else sneak in, elected officials.
Gabby Milch.
Oh, new to the school board, right? No?
Water Conservation.
Ah, that's right. Well, you're on my speaker list. That's probably, you're not on this list. We've got multiple lists, so we'll try to keep up with them all. So thank you for being here. All right, we will move, just starting off with delegation remarks, and then we'll do welcoming. Just because, as many of you probably know, we've been through redistricting, so our numbers have changed, our districts have changed. We've got new members, and our district has added another delegation member. So let's just start off with the easier. Senator Broder, to cover your district, where your office is, and your staff.
Sure, thank you very much, Chair Smith. Jason Broder, I have now Senate District 10, which for the residents of Seminole County makes no difference. Prior to this, I had Senate District 9, which was all of Seminole County and part of Volusia. Now I have all of Seminole County and part of Orange. Because the Florida Senate has 40 members in 67 counties, you can do the math. Some counties only have one senator, and Seminole is one of those. So if you don't like me, I'm sorry. But that is the way we are drawn, and looking forward to continuing to serve the residents of Seminole County as I have for the last 12 years. Thank you.
Representative Placencia.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Susan Placencia. I represent District 37. Now that's parts of, actually all of Oviedo, parts of Chileota and Geneva, just a little snippet. My district office is located on Aloma and Goldenrod Road, so very close to Seminole County, right on the line. And my legislative aide is Victor Martinez. He's right here. If you need anything, would like our business card and reach out to us later, feel free to speak to him or me when we're done with the meeting. Thank you all for having me here.
Can we come back to me?
Certainly.
Thank you, Chair Smith. You'd think I'd be better at this after this long. So my staff is here as well. All three of my aides are here in the middle. You've got Zach, Victoria, and Robbie. So if you guys raise your hand if you have any needs. Our new district office is it's next to Jackson, Lake Mary off Lake Emma Road. Nice little office park right there. And feel free to stop by. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Rep. Plakin.
Hi, my name is Rep. Rachel Plakin, and I'm District 36. I cover Sanford, Lake Mary, all the way out to Geneva, Northern Winter Springs, and Northern Longwood. My district office is in the Iowa building on 434, right next to I-4. So there's a Four Rivers barbecue there. Many of you are probably familiar with the location. Thank you.
Rep. Bankson.
Thank you, Chair.
Oh, and I'm sorry. And my aide is Jovan Gordon right there.
All right, good morning. It's good to be with you. My name is Doug Bankson. I'm in District 39. District 39 has, it's a large pie-shaped district. I go from I-4 all the way over to Mount Dora, all the way down around the lake to Winter Garden and Groveland, and then back up through Lockhart, Longwood, and back up to here. And it's a great pleasure to be here together. I have two members of my team because I need more help. And my district aide is Crystal Cassidy. She's here. And my legislative aide is Nicole Kennedy. And so they can help you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And I'm Representative David Smith. So my district is House District 38, so I have a portion of Oviedo down by Orange County, most of Winter Springs, moving across Castleberry, a little bit of sliver of Longwood, Altamont Springs, west of I-4 to Wekiva Springs. And Ezekiel is my district aide right there. Everybody knows Ezekiel to help set this event up today. So if you have issues or you want to reach out to one of us, you know where our districts are now, and we'd be happy to talk with you after the meeting also. All right, moving on. Chairman Lockhart, you are recognized for welcoming comments.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Well, it's great to have you all here this morning. Welcome, honestly, to this delegation, newly elected Representatives Plakin and Bankson and Placencia. We are so happy to have you. We are grateful, of course, to Senator Broder and Representative Smith for their incredible support over this last legislative session. You have both carried a lot of water for this county and our citizens, and we're grateful for your work. So today, on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners and our 1,400 employees employees here in Seminole County government. I want to welcome you. I wish you a good, productive day. We have a lot of citizens here and a lot of engagement. I think you'll find representing Seminole County is going to be a wonderful experience because we have citizens from all across the spectrum that just really want to be engaged and have a voice. And that's a good thing in our world today, to have that engagement. So enjoy today. I think you'll really hear some great things. One of the things that I want to specifically point out, actually there are two projects from last year from our appropriations request that were fully funded. The county's E.E. Williamson Road Trail Connect project and the Wekiva Springs Road intersection improvements were both very significant improvements for this county, and we're grateful for those. At yesterday's board meeting, my colleagues and I discussed what our legislative priorities were going to be for this upcoming year, and we are going to finalize those priorities at our next board meeting. So after today and discussions that you all have, we'll come back together as a board and we'll get those sent to your offices, so you'll have those in finality. But just to give you an idea of some of the priorities that we're discussing, and some you'll be familiar with because, as we all know, sometimes you have to talk about things for more than one session. So we have some retreads. So one of the things that was critically important, and I know you heard this on the campaign trail, is Seminole County's rural boundary. That is absolutely a primary importance to us, and just making sure that growth policy stays at the local level. We in the local level need to be able to determine what growth patterns our communities have. Lake Jessup, the health of that lake is an ongoing concern. Funding to support lake restoration, as well as initiatives relating to red tide, algal blooms, and other environmental degradations remain very important to our board. As you all know, Lake Jessup is a part of the St. Johns River chain, if you will. It's one of those lakes, and so it's not going to be something that can be fixed overnight. Senator Broder, we appreciate so much the fact that you have identified this as a very important project, and it's going to be an all-hands-on-deck project. We're going to have the state and the feds and a long-term plan for how we're going to restore that lake. And like many of Florida's 67 counties, Seminole's committed to reducing the negative impacts of nitrogen loading from septic tanks. There is an estimated 40,000 septic tanks just in Seminole County alone, and we're seeking funds to launch a pilot septic to sewer program. That is something that we really want to focus on, particularly related to the Wekiva River Basin area. So that program is something that will be focused on areas adjacent to water bodies that can't economically realistically be converted to sewer. So these wastewater, they're basically enhanced septic systems, and they will hopefully be reducing nitrogen by 65 to 79%. The initial pilot is a critical step toward obtaining public support for long-term funds. Again, another program that is going to be something that happens over the long haul, not a quick switch of the, flip of the switch, but an ongoing commitment that we have to maintain. And as our team begins preparing the county's 23-24 budget, the board would like you to consider once again amending Florida Statute 195.087 relating to tax collector budgets. Thank you, Senator Broder, again for sponsoring this for us last year. The amended language provides for further transparency, communication, and collaboration between the Department of Revenue, the County Commission, with respect to preparation and approval of tax collector budgets. We are in support of funding for state digital equity grants and look forward to launching our broadband grant program later this year. And as I mentioned, this list will be sent to all of your offices once it's finally approved and adopted by the entire board at our January 24th meeting. Just as a little point of housekeeping here in Seminole County, as you know, we have two wonderful administrators in acting interim roles right now. We have an acting county manager who is by day our county attorney, and we have an acting county attorney who is by day our deputy county attorney. And both of these gentlemen have been doing yeoman's work while we look for a permanent replacement for our county manager. In the meantime, our entire team has done an incredible job job. I want to thank Tricia Johnson and Melanie Kuntz especially for their time stepping in the gap. As we all know, it takes a team to run any kind of an organization, and this one is no exception. So just a little update on that search. We have finalized the list of potential county managers to 5 at this point. We will be interviewing them each at the end of the month and hope to have a final decision made. So we will certainly let you all know that we want to include you actually and your staff in the process. We'll be having an open house that will be hosted at Seminole State College at their Lake Mary Sanford campus, where we'll be inviting the entire community to come and to do a meet and greet type event with each of the 5 candidates. And more information about that will be coming as well. That is on January 25th. So we'd love to have you, if it's possible, to come out. This is a critical time in our organization and in our county to find the right CEO to run this organization. And so put that on your calendars if you would. Again, thank you so much for being here. And if there's anything that we can do to assist to work together as a team, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Now, the minutes for the September 29th, 2021 meeting need to be approved. Every member has already been provided a copy of those in their binders. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
All right, we'll accept that and show that the meeting minutes from 2021 have been approved and accepted. Now we move to election of delegation officers for our next term. All right. Election of officers. We have 3 officers as chairman, vice chair, and secretary of the delegation. We will begin with nominations for chairperson. Senator Broder, you're recognized.
I'd like to nominate Chairman Smith again.
All right. I like that. I like the way he thinks. Thank you very much. All in favor of retaining me as chairman, just say aye.
Aye.
All right. We'll show that as a 5-0 vote. I love it. We will now hear nominations for vice chair, and I'll take a point of privilege and nominate my good friend, Representative Rachel Plakin, as vice chairman. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We'll show that one 5-0. Moving on. See how quickly we work in Seminole County? We're effective, unlike Washington. All right, for the term of secretary, again, another point of privilege, I'd like to ask my good friend, Representative Susan Placencia, to serve as our secretary. All in favor?
Aye.
Well, another 5-0, moving right on. There we go. All right. We have heard our welcoming comments. Next, and first real order of business on the agenda, we'll have Mr. Frank Iapola from the Sanford Airport. This is a local bill. So this is a bill that the delegation all gets behind, goes by. I'll run it on the House. Senator Broder will take care of things in the Senate. And this is what we bring to the delegation as a local event. Doesn't really go through the normal general process. It's a little bit different because this is a bill specifically for Seminole County. So, Mr. Iapola, you're recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to try to be brief and be gone so you guys can be ahead of schedule since you're already 3-0 on the votes. This particular bill is asking to extend the allowable term of exclusive or non-exclusive contracts for leases, franchises, or other arrangements executed by the Sanford Airport Authority. Why? Because at the moment we're at a disadvantage. We're limited to 50 years on a term. Now you might say 50 years is a long time. The problem is major capital investments that occur, public-private and public-private partnerships take longer than that to monetize, and the developers need a longer period of time to recognize a return. It's very important, for example, the Melbourne Airport recently approved a 75-year lease with 5 5-year extensions. For economic development purposes, we are currently at a disadvantage. Whether or not we can remove the term explicitly, completely, or whether or not there'll be a longer term like 99 years, we'll leave that for the lawyers to work out with your staffs, but that's essentially the ask. It's really an economic development and competition bill that brings us level with other airports. And by the way, that delay was not the airport this morning, it was the FAA.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, seeing no questions, any debate? Okay, we'll call the, well, not really call the, all in favor of approving the local bill, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, folks. Good morning.
And we will honcho that bill through the legislative process when this upcoming session. I'd like now to move on to some of our elected officials. Sheriff Lima, if you could join us down front, and we'll give you some extra time to cover the topics of keeping us all safe in Seminole County, and if there's anything you want to touch on statewide, because I know you have a big say in law enforcement around the state, and you're recognized, Sheriff.
Well, thank you, Chairman, and good morning, delegation. It's great to see our delegation growing in the right direction. We weren't sure where this was going to end up, but we are incredibly grateful of all of your service. When we look at the efforts that we have going on in Seminole County, I think it is incredibly important just to take just a few moments to talk about some of the successes we have, particularly in the last legislative session. Senator Broder and former State Representative Scott Plakin were able to champion key bills that are helping keep our citizens safe and at the same time prosecute drug dealers to the fullest extent of the law. And a little bit of history of our space, just for the record, is, we've been digging in this now for 5 or 6 years. When Attorney General Ashley Moody had asked me to chair her transition team, we put a white paper together for the state of Florida, and ultimately the governor, Speaker of the House, and Senate President, by reviewing that, said we need a statewide opioid task force. And that was, of course, right before COVID hit. And we worked hard to make sure that we had policies and practices that would help our state. And we implemented all of those here in the area of Seminole County and abroad. So I want to thank you guys for your leadership on that, particularly HB 95, which did a few things, right? It's HB 95 and Senate Bill 544, which increased the penalty for drug dealers dealing in fentanyl, right? We knew that fentanyl is a deadly substance out on the street, and we needed to make sure that we increased the penalties for people dealing in that substance. I'm proud to say that right now in Seminole County, we hover around 35 prosecutions for first-degree murder, more than any other county in the state of Florida, and we're hoping that some of our legislative priorities for 23 will help firm that up a little bit so other jurisdictions across the state can make some progress in there. But what it also did is expanded the opportunity for people to have access to the life-saving drug Narcan. We know that Narcan can immediately reverse the effects of an opioid-related overdose, and having more widespread access to that for every person that works for a public safety organization, as well as greater access in schools, is only a healthy thing for our community. Again, as a reminder, 80% of the people who are now addicted to opioids were one time legally prescribed by somebody that they trusted. The hospital group that was responsible at the time for the largest amount of overprescribing of OxyContin was the VA hospitals, because military veterans were coming back. Many medical doctors believe the FDA statement that with proper use of OxyContin, the patient is less than 1% likely to become addicted. And now we know that that simply was not the case. So thank you, Senator Broder, and a lot of thanks to Representative Scott Plakin for his effort with Senate Bill 544 and House Bill 95. Great victory and success as the governor signed that into law as we were there with him down in Polk County. A little brief on the Advent Health Hope and Healing Center, which is a partnership between our Board of County Commissioners and the Seminole County Sheriff's Office and Advent Health. But what is incredibly unique about this opportunity, and it's many of our legislative asks to actually continue down that path, it's very rarely can you ever experience in government this real and meaningful public-private partnership where other people, companies, are investing in money that relieve us from the burden of our tax dollars. And that's exactly what this Hope and Healing Center and this partnership with Advent Health is doing. As soon as the Board of County Commissioners and I entered into this agreement with Advent Health to take over this facility, Walmart executives showed up in my office with a check for $500,000 and said, this is $500,000 to help you fund your programs, and we will be back every single year with another $250,000 gift each and every year that you run these programs, which is nothing short of remarkable to be able to have private sector money investing in initiatives and programs like that. While at the same time, through your effort, our Florida legislature over the past 3 years has now given us $1.2 million in appropriations when other things and projects and initiatives were getting cut. We had a proper and solid funding source because the model that we have here simply works. In addition to that, we had a $400,000 federal appropriation that Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy carried for us. And it's very, very rare that we're actually coming together with a Republican legislature and some Democrats in Washington actually funding with the private sector to help support various initiatives. So we're proud of that. And we're about a year and a half open with the Hope and Healing Center where everyone can come in, they can receive resources. But what we said early on in this process is you cannot be on the path towards recovery or addicted to a substance without also facing the co-occurring, co-present mental health condition that goes along with it. So what we did was we worked with our Board of County Commissioners, we worked with the city managers and mayors of Seminole County, and we asked, the Seminole County Sheriff's Office asked, for $9 million in CARES Act appropriation to create the first of its kind Hope and Healing Center expansion for mental health. And in the first half of this year, we're going to open a new mental health receiving facility directly across from Advent Health Altamont Springs. And again, through the generosity of Walmart, other companies, as well as Advent Health, we'll get that up and running. And some of our asks for upcoming appropriations deal with that as well. So the 2023 priority asks. First is we have to strengthen the enforcement ability for our police officers and deputy sheriffs across this state. We clearly have a crisis at the border. We have drugs coming across like never before, and it is causing a significant problem not only throughout our county, throughout our state, but throughout our country. We need to make sure that we can prosecute drug dealers with first-degree murder for dealing deadly doses of narcotics. Our 2022 bill fell just a little bit short of what we really desired it to be, and that dealt with language that dealt with proximate cause of death. We want to replace proximate cause of death with substantial factor as a grounds for being able to charge people with first-degree murder for dealing deadly doses of narcotics. Here's the significance of that. We know that the potency of fentanyl is 100 times more potent than morphine, 50 times more potent than heroin, and many people who are dying are having the fentanyl mixed in other substances. Toxicology reports are coming back and saying that the majority of the substance that was in this person's system at the time of death was cannabis or cocaine or another substance. But although it is a lesser than portion of the fentanyl, it was the fentanyl that actually killed them. And it's creating some concern with prosecutors across the state of Florida who don't feel like they can make the cases. We argue that you can still make the cases with great attorneys and a great state attorney, but I think that clearing up the language between proximate cause of death and substantial factor is something that we want to dig in and try to accomplish again. That was in our first draft of the bill, but as you know, we had to make some compromises as we move forward. Additionally, we feel like there should be a criminal charge for drug dealers that sell drugs to somebody, they overdose and die, we use a dose of Narcan and bring them back to life. The drug dealer should not be without prosecution for that. So every time that we administer Narcan, granted, the most important thing is for us to save lives. In many regards, we're letting the drug dealer off the hook because we're saving the person from the murder charge. We think that the drug dealer, if we have to revive somebody with the use of Narcan and they stop breathing, we should go after that drug dealer just like always before and charge them with a felony culpable negligence. And that's one of the things that we're making, again, one of our legislative priorities here in Seminole County. And we've been fortunate because the Florida Sheriff's Association has taken for the past 2 legislative sessions one of our recommendations as the top 3 and have moved forward across the state as we go forward with that. Mental health. We feel that one of the most important things that we can do is dig in deeper with mental health conditions, and we have a crisis. Not a political statement, but I will tell you, because I am in the trenches every single day, that an unintended consequence of COVID-19 is a mental health crisis and substance abuse like never before. It is not a healthy process to wear a mask, social distance, not be around other human beings. When people were not in school, especially adolescents, there is a negative cognitive effect when you just sit home in front of a computer for a couple of years, especially developmental years of 16 and 17. And now you're 18 years old, you're off on your own. We have a mental health crisis like never before. A lot of people don't realize that in Seminole County, we use the Baker Act, involuntarily admit nearly 3,500 people per year. 3,500 people per year. Many of those folks are frequent patients and flyers back and forth. They're in and they're out of the system because our state system is dated in its classification and prioritizing who actually should be Baker Act. Like in layman's terms, sometimes if somebody is experiencing a mental health crisis, I mean, they wrap a carpet around themselves and they proclaim they're Jesus Christ, and police show up. Once upon a time, police would just arrest them and take them to jail and say, let's let somebody else deal with them. This is why our correctional facilities are one of the largest mental health facilities in this country. But police officers and deputy sheriffs have become more mindful that it is incredibly expensive to take people who suffer from mental illness and simply put them in jail. And it's not good use of tax dollars if they're going in, they're processing, they're coming back out, they're going in, they're processing, they're coming back out. So we feel that there needs to be other categories to define people on where they're at. In many regards, the police officer or professional talks somebody into a Baker Act qualification just by barely meeting the qualification. It looks a little bit like this. You think you're Jesus Christ. Have you ever wanted to hurt yourself? No, I don't want to hurt myself. Are you sure you don't want to hurt yourself? Maybe I thought about hurting myself before. Oh, good. We'll Baker Act you. And you take them down, you Baker Act them, and then the police officer only gets frustrated to find out that before they can even finish their paperwork, the person is then released back out onto the street. The reason why is they were never intended for what the Baker Act was used for in the first place. Baker Act should be reserved for people who are going to harm themselves or harm somebody else. But there's very little resources for those that are on the other areas of the spectrum. That's where this expansion of hope and healing and this Altamont Springs facility comes into play. With help of the legislature, we will be able to then transport people to this center. At this center, licensed clinical social workers and professionals will be able to triage those individuals, find out if there's any health care coverage, whether they're a military veteran, they have other forms of coverage, determine professionally whether or not they're in the truest spirit of what a Baker Act should be, and make the decision, being absorbed largely by the professionals at Advent Health and their clinical staff that's there. This is a better process, and making sure that we have a clear path to be able to transport somebody there without concerns of detention and arrest and all of these other problems is going to be one of the hurdles and one of our legislative priorities as we move forward. In addition to that, we should have a voluntary database where families and individuals, whether they're on the autism spectrum, whether they have other areas of concerns, should have a statewide database that is voluntary and protected through public records requests, that you can voluntarily say, here's the conditions if you run into me at this particular time, at this particular location. So we are informed before we walk in. We can make a lot of headway in that process as well. So a lot of stuff with mental health, substance abuse, and tightening up the penalties for drug dealers. Many would say, why as a sheriff are you digging in so deeply with this? The reason why is crime is a symptom of another problem. In my 30 years here at the Seminole County Sheriff's Office, I've seen a lot of things. I've seen the death of deputy sheriffs from people who suffered from diagnosed and undiagnosed mental health conditions. Right? We know that the people who are not treated, not properly evaluated, present a significant threat to themselves, to other human beings, and to society as a whole, including the police. So this is incredibly important. It's something that my predecessor, Sheriff Esslinger, had worked on for a good number of years, and we're carrying up the torch and moving further down that path. Lastly, we have We have countywide communication, CAD, 911 system. We have many of our leaders from our communication center here. Again, we're looking to finalize the upgrade of our consolidated countywide system there. And then, of course, pursuing our emergency command vehicle. As Seminole County continues to grow, other responsibilities go on. We still have a mobile command vehicle that is more than 20 years old. So if we can find some effort and appropriations there. Again, I went long, and I know all of you are incredibly plugged in on all of these issues. I value the relationship that I have with each of you and the time that you have afforded me to meet with you and your staffs personally. I want to thank Representative Plakin and Senator Broder for helping with the drafting of these new efforts and bills as we kind of go down this path, and Representative Smith for your plugging in on a more global effort with Project Opioid and increasing awareness and all of that. The hard work lies ahead. Sadly, in Seminole County, which we know to be a very affluent county, we're still experiencing nearly 800 overdoses per year, around 150 overdose deaths per year. And when the numbers across our state and country continue to climb, that is actually a reduction because of our strategy. We have a 15% reduction in deaths and a 15% reduction in overdose, while at the same time as we're conducting our criminal investigations, the bad guys are saying, quote, "Don't deal drugs in Seminole County, go down to Orange County or other areas because they will put you in jail and charge you with murder if you do it." And I think it's a good thing. God bless you all. Thank you for the time, and thank you for the collaboration and partnership.
All right, thank you, Sheriff. And next we'll have Clerk of the Courts Grant Malloy. And while he's coming to the podium, I saw we've got Commissioner Andrea Herr, recognizing her to be here. I saw Commissioner Lee Constantine in the back. And we also have Mayor David Mealer snuck in on me, so good to see y'all here. Any other elected officials sneak in? What?
Jennifer Webb, Seminole County Soil and Water Conservation District.
Okay, pleasure to meet you. We haven't met yet, so.
I'm there, school board member.
Are you doing this right? Well, thank you, Chairman, and
You're recognized.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman. I did see I sent an email on December 13th, so it's my fault for not following up to make sure you received that to your staff there, or wherever it went, in the Ethernet there. But I appreciate it. I'll be very brief. I handed out a graph in front of you, and I think I can sum up our issue at the clerk's office with one word, and that's inflation. As you know, with the clerk's office, we don't get tax money. We're funded by fees that people pay when they're filing for a divorce, when they're paying a traffic ticket, or whatever issue it is. The courts, the clerk of courts on the court side are funded only through fees. In some of the services, there is no fee. Injunctions have no fee, Baker Acts have no fees, and that's a good public policy because you don't want to inhibit the access to justice. You also have the ability for people to file forms and not pay for civil actions as well. So it's funded by fees, and the fee schedule is the same as it was 15 years ago. And what I have in front of you, and I handed out, and I don't know if it's clear on the graph for the public, but it just shows three lines. The line on the top going to the right is the population. As we all know, Seminole County is growing. The bottom line that's flat represents our clerk of court operating budget that's been approved since 2008. And you can see back in 2008, it was approaching almost $11 million. Today, it's $9 million. If you look at an inflation-adjusted budget, the top line shows it would have been close to $14.5 million back 15 years ago. Today, we're operating on 9. We have 23 open positions at the clerk's office. Long story short, take for instance, a wedding ceremony is $30. It was $30 15 years ago, but the cost of employees, of benefits, of services has all increased dramatically. So it's becoming a bigger and bigger pressure point to keep things going. So they asked for this legislative session, there will be a bill presented, and it basically takes some of the general revenue money within the fee schedule and redirects it to the Clerk of Court Operations Corporation budget, and it amounts to about $49 million, which is targeted So this does not increase fees. It just simply takes some of the targeted general revenue fund and sends it to the court operation budget. Those details will be coming out as the session goes on. Appreciate your support in the past. I know Senator Brodeur and Scott and yourself, Dave, have always been very supportive of the office. I appreciate that. So I'll be circling back with you later. But that's the basic ask there, is to redirect some of the general revenue and the fee schedule over to the clerk corporation, operation corporation.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Little caucus up here. Chairman Lockhart, I saw you get some additional papers. Did you have anything else to brief on?
No, sir.
Okay. I thought you got like some hot breaking news or something like that.
Planes are flying.
Yeah, okay. And Commissioner Constantine, did he have any comments particular? We're going to wait. And he snuck out already, hit and run. Okay. Senator Brodeur, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought on behalf of the delegation, I would address a lot of our constitutional officers in the county on some of the priorities and things we'll commit to working on. I'll start back with Chair Lockhart. And, well, maybe a blanket statement. You know, one of the pleasures of working in Seminole County is that not only do we have great folks who serve our citizens here, but they do a lot of extra work outside Seminole County and are really leading the state. You know, Commissioner Constantine's the new president of the Florida Association of Counties. Sheriff Lima, not only being somebody that keeps our community safe and one of the lowest crime rates in history, is also a big deal in the Florida Sheriff's Association. And within that association, a big deal in the large county association. His agenda is leading Florida's agenda on criminal justice. And so it's a big deal that we partner with our county commission. It's a big deal that we partner with our sheriff's office. And it's a big deal that we partner with our clerk's office. I don't think anybody can squeeze $1 out of a nickel like Clerk Malloy. And so if he tells you that we're hurting, we are probably hurting. And that is somebody who runs a very tight office and does a very good job. And so back to the county's comments, particularly on the septic to sewer, Florida has 9 different grant programs for septic to sewer. And as the chairman of the Agriculture, Environment, and General Government Appropriations Committee in the Senate, that's a priority of mine as well, is to making sure those macronutrients that are leaching into our water bodies are coming out so that we're leaving our top, particularly our critical top water structure, water quality, better than we found it. And so a couple of things. Number one is in our general water quality improvement grant program. That will probably be funded over $100 million this year, and that is something that Seminole County has access to. Of the 9, some of them Seminole County doesn't have access to. We're not on the Indian River Lagoon, but we do have rivers and springs. And so there are other programs that if we can't get it one way, we're going to try and get it another, and I'm committed to helping us do that. In particular, when we talk about the things that we have for different kinds of septic systems, on-site storage and that sort of thing, let me know if there's any policy issues there that we have that are trouble. Lake Jessup will work on, and all the other stuff you mentioned, come to us, we'll figure it out. With the sheriff's agenda, I did do the bill last year on the difference between substantial factor and proximate cause. We are going to bring that back. It makes no sense that if you shoot someone and they die, you are charged with murder, and if they don't die, you're charged with attempted murder. But if you give somebody enough fentanyl to kill them, if they die, you're charged with murder, and if they don't die, you're not charged with anything. And so there's a way to make sure that that is more consistent among statutes, that if you are doing something that could potentially kill someone, you are held to account for that, and that's going to help us with our impending crisis. There's lots of levers to pull. It's not just about prosecuting, and so I was glad, I'm very heartened to see that a lot of the agenda on the opioid task force wasn't just law enforcement. It was education, it was treatment, it was rehabilitation, and all of that is in what we're going to be doing this year. And so, and with that, we've run the clerk's bills before, and we're happy to do that. And I think that handles a lot of what we had got from the county, and so happy to work with you folks, continue to do so, and go from there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Senator Brodeur. All right, we are now moving into the public testimony section. We'll tee the clock up for 3 minutes. We're going to do in blocks. So we're going to start with education. And so being prepared to move quickly, because by my clock, we're 8 minutes behind schedule, so we're going to have to make up time. So Seminole State, UCF, Seminole County Public Schools, and the Foundation for Seminole County Public Schools are in this block, unless I'm told there's another one. So we will move into categories, and Dr. Lorenz, you're recognized.
Thank you very much. Members of the delegation, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you this morning about Seminole State College and the upcoming legislative session. As stated, my name is Georgia Lorenz, and I've had the honor of serving as president of Seminole State since August of 2018. I'd like to begin this morning by introducing two of my trustees who are here with me today. First, the chair of our board, Bob Cortez, who's in the back. And then the trustee Lockhart, who you've already heard from, is chair of the county commission as well. And I don't think anybody else snuck in on me. So let me begin by congratulating all of you on your recent electoral victories. I'm thrilled to see our old friends back, Representative Smith and Senator Broder. You have been tremendous supporters of the college for many years, and we really appreciate your ongoing support. And of course, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our new members as well, Representatives Plaken, Placencia, and Bankson. You're joining a strong, hardworking delegation, and I look forward to working with you closely in the upcoming session as well. Since its founding in 1965, Seminole State College has grown from being a, quote, little school across from the flea market, as Ann McGee liked to say, to a large, comprehensive college encompassing a wide variety of workforce training, college transfer programs, adult education, and workforce-oriented bachelor's degrees. In fact, we're probably the most comprehensive college in the Florida college system, offering everything from the GED through to the baccalaureate. We have more than 26,000 full and part-time students and more than 200 degree and certificate programs. We share the governor's goal to become #1 in workforce education in the country. Our associate in science programs, which are designed primarily for those seeking to go straight to work, boast a 95% job placement rate, and our graduates earn a starting wage of an average of $50,000 upon completion. Seminole State has been ranked among the top 25 colleges in the country by the Aspen Institute Program for College Excellence and by the U.S. News and World Report as a top performer on promoting social mobility for our graduates. Our students excel. Evidence of that includes the passing rate for our nursing graduates on the NCLEX exam, which is currently 97%, and 100% of our EMT students recently passed their exam. The handout that we've provided to you outlines our top legislative priorities for the upcoming session, and they are, in ranked order, a new instructional building on our Altamont Springs campus to house an expansion of our nursing and healthcare-related programs. As noted in our legislative priority handout, our existing building on that site has been over capacity since the day it opened. The remodeling of the Audi Automotive Dealership building to house a Student Success Center is our second priority. This will open space for instruction in addition and remove programs from the original building. And then the remodeling of Building C on our Sanford Lake Mary campus in order to create more instructional space for workforce programs as well as community space for the citizens of Seminole County. And I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Seeing no questions, thank you very much, and thank you again for the tour.
Thank you for coming. That meant a lot to us.
It was a pleasure to be on the first day of class.
Yes.
So it was hustling and bustling, so thank you for making time in your busy schedule.
Thank you for making time, Representative Smith, Senator Broder, and Representative Bankson.
Janet Owen, you're recognized from UCF. Good to see you again.
Thank you. Great to see you all. Good morning. On behalf of the trustees, faculty, students, and staff of the University of Central Florida and our nearly 40,000 UCF alums living in beautiful Seminole County, congratulations on your election and Happy New Year. 2023 is an exciting new year for Florida's 12 state universities. We have a new chancellor, one of your esteemed colleagues, State Senator Ray Rodriguez, and the legislature's funding has now supported the state universities having the lowest tuition and fees in the country. We have now surpassed Wyoming, and I'm happy to also report that a majority of the 400,000 students in the state university system are graduating with no debt. As the University for the Future and America's Space University, we're gaining national recognition for our excellence in innovation, scholarship, and solutions that contribute to scientific progress, economic development, national security, and well-being. We continue to be the #1 producer of graduates to the aerospace and defense industries. We fuel the $8 billion modeling and sim industry in Central Florida. We supply the talent for Florida's space industry with 29% of the Kennedy Space Center Center employees holding a UCF degree. We supply Lockheed Martin with more than 500 interns a year, many of whom graduate with security clearance and a job in hand. We graduate the largest class of nurses in the state, and I think most importantly, 90% of our graduates stay in Florida, 73% stay in the Central Florida region. We plan to be in the top 50 in the next 5 years and the top 25 by our 70th birthday in 2023. To achieve this goal, we're focusing our investments from state support, from private philanthropy, from savings generated by increasing efficiencies into 5 focus areas, and this would be space technologies and systems, entertainment, immersive experiences, health and human performance, energy and sustainability, and transformative technologies and national security. So in the upcoming 2023 session, we're asking your support to increase UCF space funding so that we could hire additional faculty, increase research, and grow our academic programs specifically responsive to the economic prosperity of Central Florida. We ask for your continued funding support of UCF's PTSD clinic, providing innovative treatment at no cost to Florida's veterans, active duty personnel, first responders, and victims of catastrophes like the Surfside condo collapse and hurricanes Ian and Nicole. We ask for your continued support of UCF's Center for Community Schools, which establishes and certifies highly successful community partnership schools across the state. And to address our capital infrastructure needs, we're seeking funds for critical deferred maintenance, to renovate and expand our chemistry building, and to finish a new UCF College of Nursing. We look forward to more in-depth conversations with you as we approach the 2023 session. But again, congratulations, and thank you so much for your support.
Thank you very much. And next up, Superintendent Beeman, you are recognized.
Good morning to the entire legislative delegation. I'm Sarita Beeman, the proud superintendent of Seminole County Public Schools, and this has been another year of significant accolades for our district. We are once again an A-rated school system, and we continue to maintain our academically high-performing status. So I'm joined today by our school board members, Vice Chair Sanchez, Member Pinnick, and Member Garrick. And we, this year, have adopted a number of legislative priorities for your consideration. First, we request supplemental funding for our Academy of Health Careers over at Seminole High School. This is the 3rd year that we are asking for your support for a one-time, non-recurring appropriation for this program. I'd like to thank Senator Broder and Representative Smith for sponsoring our request last year, and I appreciate that Senator Broder toured the Academy and spoke to our students. I'd be happy to provide that same opportunity and experience for each of you so that you can see firsthand the importance of this program, not only to Seminole County, but Seminole High School in particular. We ask for your support in getting this appropriation passed and signed by the governor so that we can modernize that academy for our students and for our community. Our second priority relates to school accountability. As Florida prepares to adapt this accountability system with our new best standards and our fast assessments, we would like to recommend 2 small adjustments to the current system. The first ensures that high schools will get full credit for those students who take accelerated math courses in middle school. The current system penalizes a district like Seminole that pushes math acceleration for our students. We would also ask that the next 2 graduating classes be extended flexibility regarding the assessment scores that can substitute for performance on the state assessments. These students in these classes have experienced tremendous educational disruption, and they should be afforded access to those same opportunities as students in the past to approved opportunities to check off their graduation requirements. Our next priority addresses perhaps the greatest issue facing our school district right now, and that is employee retention and recruitment. For a variety of reasons, teachers are leaving the profession at this time. And one of those reasons for departures, one of the cited reasons that we've heard, is because of the unintended consequence of recent state initiatives regarding starting salaries. Although we greatly appreciate the governor's and the legislature's efforts to increase salaries for the starting salaries, we need flexibility to reward our veteran teachers, and the current statutory framework must provide that. So we thank you for your support, and we look forward to working with you this season.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to my friend and neighbor, Gene Van Smith, Florida Foundation for Seminole County Public Schools. You're recognized.
I haven't been on the trail recently, so I haven't seen you in a while. Good morning, Chair Smith and delegation members. I'm Jean Van Smith, the Executive Director of the Foundation for Seminole County Public Schools. The foundation is a nonprofit 501c3 that exists to enhance education in Seminole County Public Schools, so we work very closely with the school district. Since 1987, with community support, we've raised and distributed over $55 million to support students and teachers, and 91% of all the funds that we raise go directly to programs. Our major programs include a free teacher resource store called Tools for Seminole Schools, the Take Stock in Children mentoring program, arts funding, and hands-on classroom grants. In addition, we work closely with the school district to help raise funds for programs that make Seminole County Public Schools a premier national school district, such as career tech education and STEM programs. One key to our success is being able to leverage the School District Education Foundation Matching Grant Program, which is a program funded by the legislature. Thank you, Representative Smith and Senator Broder, for the legislature for funding this at $6 million last year. You were very helpful in advocating for that. What that means in Seminole is that our foundation receives $130,000 from the state, all of which we match dollar for dollar with private investments from funders such as Duke Energy, Lockheed Martin, and more. So for example, last year in Seminole County, we used some of the funds from the matching grant paired with private donations to support the Public Service Academy. This is a career program at Winter Springs High School that trains students in the wide variety of careers in public service, such as police officers, 911 operators, emergency managers, and what the superintendent was speaking of, teachers. Students learn key employability skills, and they even get to train hands-on in a mock emergency operations center that was created at Winter Springs High School. The program is growing, has over 170 students enrolled, all with the goal of increasing placement in these careers. Statewide, through the Consortium of Florida Education Foundations, the $6 million is invested in local programs in almost all of the state's 67 school districts. The funds are flexible but still accountable because we have to have performance measures and submit a report to the state every year. I would ask that you make this proven program a priority in the K-12 education budget. Given the growth of our programs in Seminole County and in Education Foundation statewide, our association is asking for an increase to $6.5 million this year, and that handout should be in your books, as well as an overview of all the programs that we're funding with the matching grant this year. We also do run the Take Stock in Children program in Seminole County, so we ask that you please continue supporting that program. And if you ever want to take a tour, I'm happy to host you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, moving into children and family issues, we have Embrace Families. Mr. Glenn, you're recognized. Good to see you again.
Good morning. I'm Jerry Glenn. I'm the Chief Legal Officer for Embrace Families. I've had the pleasure of meeting all of you all and look forward to spending more time. Embrace Families has been represented in the past by Joe Derso and more recently Sarah Neems. They have both moved on, so you're stuck with me until we have an opportunity to fill the Director of Public Affairs. As you know, Embrace Families is the nonprofit under a contract with the Department of Children and Families that manages the foster care system in Osceola, Orange, and Seminole counties. On any day, we work with just under 1,000 children, their families, and their caregivers. The foster care system was mentioned recently in a newspaper series about a potential risk some of our group homes have, especially for teenage girls. Embrace Families works hard to address this issue. Happy to meet and talk in more detail on that particular issue with any of you. One thing this article highlights is that children should not be raised in group homes. We agree. Children are better served in families. That is why we've worked hard to minimize the use of group homes. Unfortunately, the state's funding system incentivizes deeper end use of the foster care system. It incentivizes that deep end use of foster care. Because we keep children in their homes or with relatives, we have been underfunded. One of the issues we'll be discussing this session is how we can fix that. Our area is 12% of the children in the state, but we get 7% of the funding for our foster care system. That is no longer tenable. We've been able to survive for a while. With being underfunded, it is no longer tenable. So we look forward to having a lot more conversations about that issue. I just wanted to thank you all for allowing me to introduce myself. I want to make it clear that there are often constituent concerns in this area, and any of you all should feel free to reach out to me if you ever get any constituent concerns. So thank you all.
Thank you. Children Home Society, Ms. Vanderpool? All right, and I did see Christine Kraus. Are you moved? Okay. School board member, so welcome. You're recognized.
Good morning. My name is Curtisa Vanderpool. I'm the Senior Director for Community Partnership Schools with Children's Home Society. On behalf of all of us at Children's Home Society of Florida, congratulations on your successful campaigns. We look forward to working with you. Last November, Children's Home Society celebrated 120 years of service to our state through our work in prioritizing children and building bridges for their success. We look forward to being recognized by the Florida Cabinet next week. It's an honor to be with you today. We're also very excited to share with you the news on our Community Partnership School model. Last month, 7 new community partnership schools were announced throughout the state of Florida. This brings the total today to 36 community partnership schools in Florida, and that includes Endeavor Elementary that's in Brevard County. Currently, there are no community partnership schools in Seminole County, but we hope to work with others in the room to make that happen very soon. This model pulls together 4 core partners: the local school district, a nonprofit such as Children's Home Society, healthcare partner, and a local college or university. These partners have come together to make a long-term commitment and investment in the students. This commitment starts with a 25 Memorandum of Understanding, or 25-year MOU. We know that many of our students, schools need to become more than just a place to learn, but a hub that serves as a resource for our students, their parents, and the community, with opportunities for expanded learning and addressing the need to access healthcare, including mental health services. We are proud of the impact we're having on students in these schools by removing barriers to their education. Positive impacts include their higher test scores, less disciplinary referrals, greater teacher retention, stronger parent engagement, and so much more that we're able to do in partnership with our core partners, which includes the school districts. We are requesting the legislature to increase funding to a total of $11 million to continue the implementation of the model and also expand this proven model and impact more students, their families, and the communities as we ask for your continued support. Thank you for your time, your enthusiasm to serve our state, and for your consideration of our priority. We look forward to working with all of you during the 2023 session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Howard Phillips Center for Children and Families, which I've had the opportunity to tour on a couple different occasions, doing great work. Ms. Martinez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Smith. I am Marie Martinez with the Howard Phillips Center for Children and Families, and I'm here to speak to you today about your youngest constituents in Seminole County, and that is children from birth to age 3. And these are children who are vulnerable because they have a special need diagnosis or a developmental delay. This is kids who may have Down syndrome, kids who have spina bifida, autism, or it could be just a delay in a specific domain such as motor skills, gross or fine motor skills, cognitive issues, receptive or expressive language, social and emotional, those type of categories. So these are the kids that we evaluate. And if they are determined to be eligible, then our service delivery point moves to the homes. So we will serve a family in all corners of Seminole County. All those who come to us, if their children meet the eligibility criteria, do get services, and this is 100% free. We cannot access insurance unless the family would give permission for that. And so this is a really wonderful, important service as an early intervention service. We know that the brain grows most rapidly from birth to 3, and this is the opportunity. It's a golden window of opportunity to help these kids. I do have a request for you this year, and I have good news about this request. We're not asking for additional money in the state budget. We're asking for spending authority. So I have 2 spending authority requests. One is for $3.2 million, and that is federal grants trust fund spending authority. This is money that is within the Department of Health under Children's Medical Services and then the Early Steps State Office Program. So this is, the first $3.2 million is for a new data system. It would be non-recurring funds, but again, these monies sit within the Department of Health budget. We just need the authority to spend them. Secondly, the authority to spend $8.3 million in federal grant carryover funds from 22-23, and this is for a lot of quality improvement things. Efforts to add training coordinators so the providers, meaning the speech and language pathologists, the occupational and physical therapists who go to the home or who also offer those services virtually, depending on the family's preference, training for them in terms of quality improvement, parent engagement, training, and also to increase some of the fees that we pay those providers to go to the homes. I will tell you, we are getting pushback. Providers are wanting more and more to do virtual services. We do always offer the family the choice. Do you want to get those services through your tablet, or do you want to have that person come to the home? Those clinicians a lot of times are saying, more and more the cost of traveling to the homes is becoming a barrier. So that spending authority, both of those is spending dollars that are already there in the Department of Health. It won't cost you anything, and we ask for your support in that.
Senator Brody, you're recognized for
Just a quick question. I want to commend you for not asking for money. That's great. On the spending authority question, do you know, and you might not know the answer to this, is that specific to just your organization, the increase in the authority, or would that be a blanket to statewide? And so do you know that would that be 25 other entities that would also have that? And then what kind of hit would that be?
Great question. So there's 15 what's called an LES, a local early steps provider.
That's it. Thank you.
We're Central Florida, we're Tri-County, but whenever I come and speak to you, is the entire state, yes.
Okay.
And I will say, I just want to remember you to remember this, that I'm not asking for money this time because I'm going to come back in the future and probably ask for money. So if I get any briny points, I would just like to have that.
Just this session, I guess.
And lastly, I'll just say, those of you who haven't met with us yet, or we haven't invited you in for a tour, I think we do have one scheduled with Representative Plasencia. We'd love to have you. I know Senator Broder and Representative Smith, you've already done that. So we will be contacting you and look forward to meeting with you.
All right, thank you very much. Moving into health issues, Seminole County Fire Department, Ms. Simpson, making your way down, recognized. And also, we had Commissioner Jay Zimbauer join us and snuck into the back. So good to have you here with us, Jay.
Good morning. So Ms. Simpson could not be here today, but I'm going to speak on her behalf. We are speaking on the issue of mental health and how it pertains to our local dispatchers and amending the Florida Statute 112.1815 to include our dispatchers. So my name is Beth Vasello, and I currently serve as a supervisor for one of our local 911 agencies. I'd like to recognize my fellow dispatchers who are here today to show support. I appreciate that, and I want to thank you for allowing us the time to speak today to you. So last year I wrote an article that was published in the Sanford Herald to recognize our dispatchers during National Telecommunicator Week, and I'd like to read just a brief portion to you. This is the only occupation that I know of where we are asked to do our job in the blind. Doctors and nurses can see their patients to assess ailments. Mechanics can put their hands on the engine and work with parts to find the problem. And administrative assistants can see their computer and read correspondence to do their job. Dispatchers must make split-second, life-saving decisions based on information given to us over the phone without any confirmation. And we do an amazing job, but it's not without a cost. Even our average calls take a toll on our mental health, which make the other calls even more traumatic and emotional. We must remain respectful and helpful to even the most belligerent and angry caller. We must think outside of the box when our normal protocols don't fit the situation and our units are counting on us to guide them and update them with current information. We must remain calm and reassuring. To the father who is pleading for you to help his wife who is in labor and the baby is having complications. And we must have the ability to disconnect and move on to the very next 911 call after hearing the units call no code, no vitals for the baby that didn't make it. While our job doesn't require us to see the nature of our calls face-to-face, at least not yet until the next Gen 911 allows our callers of Seminole County to be able to video conference in with their 911 calls. The stress related to what we hear is just as detrimental. And so our first responders deserve the same mental health, access, and support as our firefighters and our law enforcement officers. So today, we are asking you to show your support for our dispatchers and telecommunicators and amend Florida Statute 112.1815 to include Florida-certified public safety telecommunicators into the definition of first responder. I thank you for your time, and if you have any questions.
Senator Broder.
Thank you very much. Would that include, are you currently included into special risk for pension purposes?
That is not, and this particular statute does not address anything with retirement or anything. It just includes us in the language that's already there to give us access for mental health, for dealing with like PTSD.
Sure, just trying to think through any other cost drivers that might prohibit somebody from doing it, because it makes sense.
Certainly.
So, thank you.
Yeah, and the bill's been filed in the House and Senate already. I found out about that yesterday.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And if you would, just, Beth, be sure to make sure we get the member or speaker card corrected so we have a public record of who actually spoke in replace of Ms. Simpson. Central Florida Cares. Mr. Lupton, you're recognized.
Good morning. Thank you all first for your service and for also making this event available today. It's wonderful to have the opportunity to speak to you all. Central Florida Cares is a behavioral health managing entity. We manage the federal and state substance abuse mental health dollars for Seminole, Brevard, Orange, and Osceola counties. We have a network of 37 providers that we work with to deliver services, some of which have been mentioned today, Advent Health, Children's Home Society. There are a number of others. For the new members, I would like you to know we will be reaching out to you to set up meetings to go more in depth on what we do, what our role is, how we can help when you have questions. But for the returning members, a great big thank you for the additional $126 million statewide for behavioral health services. These are greatly needed and go to address many of the concerns that have been brought up today. The expansion of mobile response teams to address people in crisis, so hopefully we can avoid Baker Acts. The community action teams expansions to help children who are having problems and help their families to meet them where they are in the community and make sure that they can get better. To expand access to medication-assisted treatment services, to expand residential capacity, so instead of individuals needing to go to state hospital, they can stay within their community. So thank you very much for that. Those new funds. They make a big difference. They address major needs. Going forward, we are focusing on expanding our care coordination capacity, especially around children, to make sure that, again, children who are in crisis going through this pandemic and the issues that that's caused, that they have more supports, that their families have better supports. We are looking to continue expanding access to medication-assisted treatment. It is the gold standard of care for opioid issues. And so it is important that as resources are available, that they get deployed into the community and that people get the treatment that they need. And I'm not going to fill up the whole 3 minutes. I'm giving you back about 30 seconds. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great one.
All right, the Human Life Protection Amendment, Ms. Parker? You don't look like Ms. Parker. Guessing.
Well, good morning, and obviously, I'm Larry Brumback, obviously not Vicki Parker. She was not able to make it, so I'm going to speak on her behalf.
Be sure to correct the speaker form for us.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm here to address something that I think the Florida residents are particularly in favor of, and that is the Human Life Protection Amendment. The mission of the Human Life Protection Amendment Initiative is to amend the Florida Constitution through a grassroots citizen effort so that the most vulnerable and victimized people group in our state are protected. We need 891,589 signed petitions to get this, by February 1st of 2024, to get this initiative on the ballot for November of 2024. Okay. The amendment recognizes the God-given right to life of the preborn individual. It defines preborn individual as a preborn human person at any stage of development. Now, the amendment affirms that life-saving procedures to save the life of the mother shall not be construed as a violation. So the mother is protected, provided there are reasonable steps taken to save the life of the preborn individual. So when passed, this amendment will be added to the Declaration of Rights under Article 1 of the Florida Constitution. Now, the Human Life Protection Amendment, like I said earlier, is a grassroots citizens initiative, and it's not powered by large dollars, it's powered by volunteers. And in fact, myself and Vicki are volunteers on the Seminole County team. Vicki is the team captain, and of course, we are always looking for more volunteers to help us as well. The organization is managed by the Protect Human Life Florida. That's the name of the organization, and it's chaired by Mark Mink. Now, Mark is particularly passionate about defending the life of the defenseless unborn. Now, there's much more information that I can give you on the information sheet that I have, I just don't have time to speak anymore this morning. However, let me close by saying that abortion is a humanitarian crisis that is affecting the most vulnerable and victimized people in Florida. And in fact, and this is phenomenal, the lives of 79,817 unborn human beings were killed in last year, and it should be, it will be even more this year.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your time and support of this initiative.
Thank you. Alzheimer's Association, Greg Frazier. Think any other elected officials snuck in? And Mr. Frazier, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. My name is Greg Frazier, and I'm one of the many faces of Alzheimer's in Seminole County. My dad passed away from the disease at the age of 67. Our state resides at the epicenter of the crisis, with the second highest prevalence in the country. Just over 580,000 Floridians are living with Alzheimer's disease, including an estimated 9,300 here in Seminole County. Alzheimer's remains the only top 10 leading cause of death in our nation without prevention, viable treatments, or cure. I know many of you have been touched by the realities of Alzheimer's and dementia, and you realize all too well that there are no good outcomes from this disease, yet. And to that end, the Alzheimer's Association will continue to advocate for resources and care for those individuals, families, and caregivers impacted by this disease. With your support, we remain relentlessly optimistic as we propose our 2023 legislative priorities. First, we seek to establish baseline dementia training standards for staff in all long-term care providers. Direct care workers are the single most important determinant of quality dementia care. These providers help shape the daily lives of individuals with dementia by assisting in all aspects of their physical care. We will work in partnership with the long-term care community, knowing that additional training helps facilities with staff retention, morale, and family satisfaction. Second, we know we must do a better job in educating our community about the early warning signs of Alzheimer's and the importance of brain health and risk reduction strategies. A significant number of people don't talk to their doctor about their cognitive health. That is why we are advocating for legislation that will require the Department of Health to create a public health awareness campaign that utilizes multiple different media platforms and focuses on those from underserved communities. Finally, the third item is we ask the legislature to continue supporting the funding of programs that have a proven track record in research, care, and services for those in need. This includes the Brain Bus, the Ed and Ethel Moore Alzheimer's Disease Research Program, and Respite through the Alzheimer's Disease Initiative and Community Care for the Elderly through the Department of Elder Affairs. On behalf of the Alzheimer's Association and the over 500,000 Floridians living with this disease, their families and their caregivers, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. And we'll see each of you in Tallahassee on February 7 and 8 for our advocacy days. Thank you for your time today.
All right, thank you. Homeless Service Network of Central Florida. Moving right along. Okay, nobody else in. You're recognized.
Thank you. My name is Martha R. I'm the CEO of the Homeless Services Network of Central Florida and the Central Florida Commission on Homelessness. Thank you for giving your community this opportunity to speak with you. HSN is the lead agency for Seminole, Orange, and Osceola counties to help homeless families and individuals get into housing, long-term stable housing, and connect them with support services to help them maintain that housing. That means it's our job to get every government and nonprofit agency in the region working together towards the same goals. And yes, that's a little bit like herding cats with a few mountain lions and pumas thrown in. I'd like to share our 2023 legislative priorities. We ask you to support the legislative budget request associated with homelessness from the Department of Children and Families, specifically increasing the homeless housing assistance grants from $3 million recurring general revenue to $5.2 million, increasing the homeless challenge grants from $3.15 million recurring to $15, and reinstate funding for the homeless assistance grants, which provide $1.8 recurring for rapid rehousing programs. Please understand that addressing homelessness isn't about enabling or giving people a handout. It's about supporting homeless youth, families with minor children, military veterans, adults with disabilities, and survivors of domestic violence and human trafficking. And when we do that, we lessen expensive financial burdens on our jails, law enforcement, local emergency departments, and state welfare programs. It ultimately saves taxpayers money. So it's humane and a fiscally responsible thing to do. In addition, we ask that you do anything you can to protect the remaining money in the Sadowski Trust Fund, which you may remember was permanently reduced a few years ago by half. This is essential incentive money for private enterprise to build low-income housing for families and individuals. Please keep in mind, our metro area has been identified as tied for second worst in the country in terms of the number of affordable units for very low-income households. We have 18 units for every 100 of low-income households, and that is the primary driver behind family homelessness. On a positive note, our region was awarded $8.4 million in federal grant to address homeless youth in Seminole, Orange, and Osceola counties. We are among one of only 17 communities chosen, and our grant was the largest per capita across the country. This gives us an unprecedented opportunity to literally end homelessness in our lifetime and prevent chronic homelessness. But we have to come up with a match, and it's a lot of money, and so we will be reaching out to some of you to talk about how we can partner with the legislature and the state to make that happen. We welcome the opportunity to have a longer conversation with you, and thank you for your time and attention.
All right, thank you. And Senator Brody, you're recognized for a question.
Well, I just wanted to make a statement on the Sadowski Housing Trust Fund. It wasn't permanently reduced by half. Sadowski is funded through dock stamps and goes into a pool. Traditionally, we sweep it and have swept it down to zero. 2 years ago, we passed a bill that said we can only sweep up to 50% of that money. And so we are allowed to put more in. We could have it permanently funded. The benefit of that is that we no longer can sweep the whole thing. You can only sweep half. And really, you can't, because the other 50% is dedicated to septic to sewer and other programs. So really what that means is that we no longer can sweep Sadowski. You can only sweep up to half of it. And secondly, the legislature this year is going to be committed to housing. I think you're going to see see a lot more coming out in terms of flexibility for locals to be able to permit for it, as well as funding that's going to go to. I don't know exactly what it looks like yet. I just know that that's something that we're going to be looking at.
Thank you so much. Sure.
All right, thank you. Drake Wirtz, we're moving on to social issues, and we're now 21 minutes behind schedule, so let's try to stay to 2 minutes. We're going to keep things at 2 minutes so we can get back on track.
Good morning, Chairman Smith, and thank you so much to our Seminole County delegation for the opportunity to speak this morning. My name is Drake Wirtz, and I'm here today representing the Seminole County Republican Party. I'm glad to have our state committee woman, Linda Trocine, here, as well as our chairman, Bruce Cherry, who you'll be hearing from later. Might I also add, it's incredibly fantastic for the first time in recent memory to see an all-Republican delegation this year as well. In 2022, the Seminole County GOP unanimously and overwhelmingly passed a resolution in support of constitutional carry. Constitutional carry is by definition the ability to carry a firearm without a restriction in place by the government. In constitutional carry states, there's no licensing required to legally carry a firearm. It's quite simply the right to carry a firearm without having to ask the government for permission. 25 other states have signed constitutional carry into law, and in those states that have adopted constitutional carry, there has not been an increase in violence or firearm incidents. Concealed carry laws have never stopped a criminal from carrying without a license. All it does is prevent law-abiding citizens from carrying a firearm. Concealed carry licensing systems can easily prevent people from carrying a firearm to protect themselves, as they also leave people vulnerable during the often long process of applying and being approved. Constitutional carry makes it possible for hardworking and even low-income individuals to protect themselves without the undue burden of licensing costs and taking time off work for classes. Constitutional carry would also reduce the government bureaucracy and trend government spending on licensing agencies. Constitutional carry takes the right to bear arms and returns it to the status of a God-given right. I have provided Mr. Rodriguez with a copy of HB 103 from the 2022 session, and we, as the Seminole County Republican Party, are calling upon you to champion this legislation. That language is supported by the Republican Liberty Caucus, the Republican National Hispanic Assembly, and the Florida Republican Assembly. We stand ready to support you in Tallahassee, and we're asking you to listen to the base that helped get you elected. Let's stop infringing on our rights, and let's make this the year that constitutional carry gets to the desk of the greatest governor in America, Ron DeSantis. God bless you all. God bless Seminole.
Thank you. Next up, Moms Demand Action. Ms. Linda Coffin, you are recognized.
Thank you. My name is Linda Coffin, and I'm a volunteer with Moms Demand Action. We are a grassroots organization joining other organizations and community members to help reduce gun violence. Death by firearms is now the #1 cause of death in children in America. There are more guns than people in the U.S. American Academy of Pediatrics in 2021 linked the rise of gun ownership to higher rates of gun injuries among and inflicted by children. Some say laws don't make a difference, but data show that they do. So why in the world would we reduce well, I'm so sorry.
No, take your time. Doing great.
So why would we even think of lessening another law by bringing in what he just called constitutional carry, permitless carry? And what that really means is that permitless carry harms public safety by removing vital safety measures designed to ensure those that carry handguns in public without being properly trained or vetted. Our data shows, as against what he said, there's been 13 to 15% increase in homicides in states that now have permitless carry. States that have stricter laws have 11% decrease. Bottom line is allowing people to carry firearms openly or concealed in public places without a permit. That means without a possible criminal history check or safety training. There's no training anymore if you don't have a permit. It would completely dismantle Florida's system of responsible gun ownership. Another way that we can help reduce gun violence is through the Community Violence Intervention and Prevention Bill, which we hope we can get across. Placencia, Representative Placencia was one of our sponsors last year. We will send you more information because my time's about ended, but we do want to encourage our community partners and fund them and give them an opportunity to get federal, state, and local funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Geraldine Wright, League of Women Voters, you are recognized.
Right, and I'm
Yeah.
not her.
Oh, then we need to change your comment card, please.
As first vice president, I get to step in when she is not available. My name is Kathy Swerdlow, and I'm with the League of Women Voters of Seminole County. The League is a nonpartisan community organization dedicated to protecting our democracy, advancing voting access, and providing education to the community on topics that directly affect the lives of the residents of our county. Over the years, we have worked on such important issues as the 911 system, the method of selection for the school superintendent, protection of the rural boundary, and campaign sign recycling. As you prepare to go to Tallahassee, an issue of great concern to us is gun violence prevention. Our county has thus far been fortunate to not be the site of a mass shooting incident, but we have seen the steady effect of gun violence in our community. We have had guns being brought to school. We have had a suicide by gun on school property. We have seen guns in the hands of toddlers resulting in the death of a parent, and much more. Although it may be true that guns don't kill people, people do, the statement is also true that guns don't protect people, people do, and those people include you. As our lawmakers, we need you to enact measures that work to protect our communities. We have had years of relying on responsible gun owners to act responsibly out of common sense and respect for the power of a firearm, and yet time and again, common sense is ignored without penalty. It is time for laws to require responsibility and provide sufficient punishment for failure to comply. I see I'm nearly out of town. I do want to talk on permitless carry, which we are also against, as Linda Coffin had really given a good overview of. And so I'm just going to close with, the League of Women Voters is well aware of what's in the U.S. Constitution, all of its articles and its amendments. However, the right to bear arms, the Second Amendment, is no more an absolute right than the right to freedom of speech, which has limits and regulations. As the preamble states, one of our primary functions of our government is to establish justice and ensure domestic tranquility, and gun violence prevention legislation strives to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to election and voting issues. Republican Liberty Caucus, Bob White, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, our delegation, rather. It's a pleasure to be with you. For more than 30 years, the Republican Liberty Caucus has functioned as the conscience of the Republican Party, promoting the Jeffersonian principles of individual liberty, personal liberty, limited government, and free markets. We promote those principles at every level of government, and the document that I have submitted to you already, our 2023 legislative policy position paper, will be replaced as we get closer to the legislative session with our actual legislative agenda of actual bills that we will either be supporting or opposing. I'll try to very briefly hit each one of the topics included in the paper. Campaign finance reform is a critical issue for us. The way in which we finance campaigns in Florida literally amounts to the legal laundering of millions of dollars of campaign cash. As long as political committees and electioneering communications organizations can make contributions to each other, the public will always be kept in the dark as to where the money that finances campaigns actually comes from. One of your colleagues, Representative Beltran, has a bill in drafting right now that would eliminate that would prohibit that transfer of money between political committees. We absolutely support that, have been for a number of years now. Regarding the Second Amendment, we absolutely support permitless carry. We support constitutional carry. We support open carry. You already have permitless carry in the state of Florida. It's just being practiced by the criminal element. I mean, it's a joke to think that we don't have permitless carry in Florida. We do. It's just that it's not being practiced by the people that deserve to be able to practice it. Regarding term limits, 8 years is absolutely enough. We supported the 8-year term limit on school boards last year, but when the Senate amended it to 12, we had to end up opposing it. We'd love to see that rolled back to 8. We also support non-charter counties having the same ability to recall abilities as charter counties do. We support criminal justice reform. We support universal school choice in education for parents to be able to send their kids to the schools of their choice, whatever works best for them. Regarding taxation and government regulation, that fits right into that limited government plank that we talked about of our principles that we support. So thank you very much for your time. Look forward to seeing you all in Tallahassee.
Thank you. And next up, Bruce Cherry, Chairman of Seminole County Republican Executive Committee. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
You're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and good to see the committee here, or the delegation here this morning. It's an honor to be here to speak to you, and I will apologize up front. I'm not a speechwriter. I don't have a long speech or anything to share with you other than the fact that as chairman of the Seminole County Republican Executive Committee, election integrity is one of the things that is paramount on the agenda for this year. And we know it is with the legislation as well, so we ask that you support any bill that is put forth that makes sense for election integrity. We need to get back to the paper ballot, stop the widespread use of absentee ballots except for military who are serving abroad. Stop the online voting machines. There's no reason whatsoever for a voting machine to be connected to the internet. And here's an alarming statistic. Only 20% of Floridians have faith in our election system, and that is widespread, not just here in Florida, but across the country. So we ask for all measures to be supported for election integrity. That's really all I had to share with you today. Again, it's an honor to be here, and we thank you for your service, and thank you for indulging me.
All right. Thank you very much. And Cynthia Kisby from Convention Estates, Florida. You are recognized.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for offering this opportunity for me to speak to you as a concerned constituent. My name is Cynthia Kisby, and I'm a volunteer for Convention Estates. It's a nonpartisan organization dedicated to promoting citizen participation and loyalty to constitutional principles. Therefore, I am not here to ask for money, but to offer support. Convention of States volunteers are in all areas of Florida. Our founding fathers recognized a central government, federal, would eventually assume authoritarian power, and that the people needed a way to rein in federal excess. Article 5 of our Constitution provides a legal way for citizens, through their legislators, to propose amendments to get the country back on its constitutional path. Even though you will see federal bills for term limits, balanced budget, reduced bureaucracy, they might be brought before Congress, we know that people in control will never voluntarily relinquish power. Congress uses our federal money to limit Florida state sovereignty. Decisions that should be made at our local level are being made by bureaucrats who are very far away from us, both geographically and philosophically. There are signs of cultural and political lawlessness, corruption, divisiveness. Over time, I think the structure has been broken. Elected officials need help, and Convention of States is offering that to you. Article 5 is a constitutional solution to change the destructive path that our elite federal leadership is following. I'm grateful that Florida has passed. Florida is one of the 19 states that has already passed this Article 5 resolution. I'm asking for your continued support. If you haven't signed the petition, please do so. Article 5 is discussed in this pocket guide for Convention of States. Thank you very much for this time. God bless America.
Thank you very much. We're moving to environmental and agriculture issues now. Florida native plants. You're recognized.
Hello, thank you, representatives and Senator Broder. My name is Kaylee Adams. I'm a director at large with the local chapter of Florida Native Plant Society, the Couplet Fern chapter. I wanted to touch on a few things that I think are important for our local and also statewide area. So recently, this past year, we conducted a plant rescue, and so I was hoping that we could maybe set up a way of communication between the county board or any other statewide, whenever land is acquired by a developer and they intend on building on it, if we could have the chance to survey and salvage any imperiled or endemic endangered species of plants that are on the areas. Another thing is we wanted to ask about a native plant landscaping ordinance or legislative move that could potentially increase biodiversity in new development plantings where they put in new plants, and foundation plantings could be native plants locally sourced that would help reduce pollutants and over-fertilizers into the stormwater that makes its way into our watersheds. And another thing is I wanted to touch on and ask about roadside wildflower areas. I see in northern counties there's more roadside wildflower areas, but there are none that I know of here in Seminole County, and I was hoping that we could establish more areas along the roadsides where we could reduce mowing and plant in seeds for native plants and wildflowers. Thank you.
All right, thank you. St. John's River Keepers. You are recognized. Good to see you again.
Good morning, and thank you all for being here today and listening to us. Seminole County is fortunate to have the St. Johns River bordering our community. Lake Monroe, the St. Johns water define our community. It improves our quality of life, it supports our health, it puts food on our tables, and it provides jobs. However, the river has sustained a healthy economy. We must also sustain our river. Recently, with this 1,000-year storm event that occurred with Ian, and Nicole, this fall, we brought record flooding upstream, downstream, and continued at the St. John River communities in Orlando, Sanford, DeLand, Astor, Willaca, destroying many homes, many businesses, and dumping millions of gallons of raw sewage into the St. Johns River and its tributaries. Sadly, many miles of the St. Johns River are still above flood stage today. Back-to-back hurricanes polluted waters and caused saltwater intrusion to have wiped out much of the eelgrass in Lake George to Jacksonville, resulting in a loss of fish habitat, water quality filtration, and flood protection. Your leadership can help save the St. Johns River and all the communities that depend on our healthy river and outdoor recreational economy. First, we respectfully ask you to support the Reunite, the Silver Springs and Ocklawaha and St. Johns River restoration of more than 150 million gallons of fresh water to the St. Johns River a day, improving water quality, offsetting saltwater intrusion, and separating the critical link. Second, we ask for your protection of natural lands and wetlands in critical areas. Also, we would like to reduce the amount or decrease the dumping of sewage sludge in the upper basin of the St. Johns River. And I hope to speak with each of you in the future, and I appreciate you here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Senator Broder, you're recognized.
Hey, thanks for being here. Did you, are you advocating that we get rid of the Rodman Dam? Is that what I heard in there?
Yes, sir.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Again, yeah. Next up, we have Bear Warriors United. Katrina, you are recognized. We'll get those after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let me get this. All right, thank you for giving everyone this chance to bring up legislative proposals. And my first proposal is already being worked on by the amazing Representative Smith, and I hope all of y'all will support banning the use, possession, sale, import of 3 types of traps currently maiming and killing our pets and wildlife in Florida. The first page of your packet is a collection of animals hurt and killed by snare strangulation traps, steel jaw traps, and the combo body-crushing drowning traps, commonly referred to as Kona bear traps. All 3 types of traps are indiscriminate killers. The top picture is a bear that was nearly decapitated by a wire snare trap in Longwood, put out for a coyote. The bottom is the bloody stump of a critically endangered Florida panther whose paw was ripped off and whose trachea was crushed by a wire snare. He was entangled in 2 snares. The trapping industry's mottos are shoot, shovel, shut up, and don't let Fluffy go home with trap injuries. People are hiring trappers to trap coyotes, and our cats and dogs are getting caught in these traps. The trappers find our pets in the traps, they kill them, they bury them, and then blame the disappearance of cats and dogs on the coyotes. It's a cycle that needs to end. We need to educate the community on peacefully coexisting and removing attractants for coyotes instead of killing them. Secondly, I would like to stock your offices with my bear care packages. They include 4 bear straps and to secure trash, bear whistles, educational literature with coexisting with our wildlife, including bears and coyotes. I have spent about $60,000 to provide over 6,000 of these bear care packages free as a service to our communities to help everyone peacefully peacefully coexist with our wildlife. And I have saved taxpayers and the government over $1.7 million. I'm happy to do it. I want to do it more. Let me stock your offices. Also in your packet is a proposal of on-site nutrient reducing systems that I hope some of the money will be spent to clean up the Indian River Lagoon, and be happy to talk with y'all more in detail about those things. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. All right, next, 1,000 Friends of Florida. Paul Owens, you're recognized. And
Thank you, Chair Smith and delegation members. I'm Paul Owens, president of 1,000 Friends of Florida. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization based in Tallahassee, but Central Florida has been my home for more than 20 years. Since 1986, we've been calling for thoughtful planning and ambitious conservation to preserve our environment and quality of life, even as we grow here in Florida. And those are certainly goals that are valued here in Seminole County. I've provided a copy of our 2023 legislative priorities to each of you. The ones I'm going to focus on briefly this morning were made more urgent by the hurricanes that struck our state this year. Ian and Nicole were painful reminders that it's essential for Florida to direct growth toward appropriate areas and away from vulnerable areas. Doing so will save lives, property, and tax dollars when future storms hit, and ease upward pressure on insurance costs. One way of accomplishing this essential goal is to keep investing in preserving natural and agricultural land to buffer our coasts and communities. The last state budget allocated $488 million for this purpose. We're calling for $500 million from the Land Acquisition Trust Fund. In the next budget for this purpose, we appreciate Senator Broder's leadership on the wildlife corridor. We're very encouraged by the funding commitment that Governor DeSantis announced just yesterday. We want you to be on guard against legislation like House Bill 41 that would rule out local citizens' initiatives to protect the environment. I don't think your constituents would want Tallahassee to short-circuit any of their efforts to preserve the rural boundary in Seminole County. Finally, we urge you to finish implementing the consensus recommendations of the Blue-Green Algae Task Force. Funding is important, but so is policy. Thank you for your consideration.
thank you. And just to appreciate the fact that you brought up the wildlife corridors. And I think most people in this room don't really realize the impact of the legislation that Senator Broder passed, but your children will, and your grandchildren will, to allow wildlife in this state to thrive like it had never been planned for before. So we appreciate that, and thank you for working. Please.
If I could. Thank you very much, Chair Smith, and thanks for bringing that up, Paul. For those that aren't aware, last year we passed, 2 years ago, legislation that effectively creates a central park from Naples to Orlando. In coordination and conjunction with private landowners and conservationists, those who are concerned about animal welfare and the environment, we are now creating a permanent easement that will allow our apex predator species to be able to roam freely throughout all of Florida. This will allow genetic variation so that you're not having siblings reproducing with each other, which would be the end of a species, and will allow Florida to remain like we think of in the past. This next year, we're looking at funding a bike path so that it will be possible in the future to walk or ride your bike from Naples to Orlando. And think of all the agritourism and all of the ways that we can help preserve Florida's natural way for perpetuity. So thanks for pointing that out, and I'm very proud to have worked on that and established that. And as long as I serve, that might be the biggest thing that I ever do. So thank you, Chairman Smith, and thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
All right, Seminole Audubon Society. Phyllis Hall,
Hi.
you're recognized.
I'm Phyllis Hall, President of Seminole Audubon and Chair of the Conservation Committee. So I don't need to say anything because you already just said it, Senator Broder. We've met with him a couple of times to talk about advocating to breach the partial breach of the Rodman Dam, which does exactly what you're talking about. It expands the water wildlife corridor, which would also help fish transfer along the river, as well as the manatees. Manatees, as we all know, are very much in danger right now, and even though the dam is in Putnam and Marion counties, in the past, there wasn't support there, but that has shifted in the last year. And the manatees in Blue Spring are at an overload. They had over 600 at Christmas, on Christmas Day, and last year there were over 700 in February during that cold snap. So that gives them more room and more food supply to move through the St. Johns River. So it really would expand the corridor, and not asking for any money, because there's money that can be allocated from state resources as well as federal resources. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Karen Harriet from Soil and Water, you're recognized.
Thank you. I provided you all with a map of the flooding of Seminole County, and what's important for me to bring up, I think, is that the flooding occurred throughout the county, not just along the edges of our major bodies of water. And to that end, the Soil and Water Board is willing to create an outreach and education program to help people understand their vulnerability and the nature of the hazards that they face, so they can plan for the next flood event, thereby reducing the costs of, dealing with the situation after the fact. We're also asking, or I'm also asking for money for enhancing the matching funds for the purpose of placing vulnerable lands in conservation. And I think we've sufficiently dealt with the wildlife corridor, so thank you for that.
Thanks, Karen.
All right, thank you. Jennifer Webb, you're recognized.
Thank you, and also in association with with Karen Harriet, I'm also on the Soil and Water Conservation District. We have put together a map in your packet of the identified pollution events that happened throughout Seminole County from 2017 to 2022, and as you're probably all aware, the majority of those incidents occurred during hurricane events, and so to go along with your work in creating resilient communities and other programs to improve our environment. We want to encourage the creation of resilient infrastructure for our water protection, our sewage treatment plants to prevent water pollution from going into our rivers and waterways during these kind of events, similar to what we do with building codes. During 2022, we had 103 incidents. 80 of those were strictly hurricane related. And so if we were able to create a resilient program that focused on making our soil and water treatment plants functional during these events, it would minimize the amount of pollution that would go into our waterways. Likewise, we also are looking for the conservation efforts that you are continuing for the protection of Lake Jessup, as well as our other waterways within Soil and Water. We have a brand new board within our group, and our first meeting is January 18th, and we're looking forward to working with each of you on continuing our work on educating and advocating for best soil and water conservation practices throughout the county. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And moving to constituent concerns now, Tammy Stone, Florida Film. And I guess we can talk about the legislation too. So
now for something completely different.
Yes.
Hello, thank you for giving me the time to talk. I'm not used to talking on a stopwatch, so I'll do my best. My name is Tammy Stone. I'm a native Floridian, going back many generations, and I've been a location scout and location manager in the film and media industry for 38 years. It has been my pleasure and pride to expose people around the world to the beauty that is Florida by having family people projects come here and show the diversity that we have. We've also, our industry contributes a lot of clean business to this state. We don't really, we have our native crew, which are all taxpayers and stuff, but most of these projects come in to shoot in our case, in our state, as a location, which means they literally are coming and dumping money without providing impact on our services, like overcrowding our schools, over damaging the environment, and then they go home. and leaving us, people like myself, thousands of crew people and businesses, to keep doing the job. We have seen a serious decline in our industry and the crew members and the businesses that work there. And I know we've always had strong support from the state, and we're really looking for that now. I ask you to please pay attention to the legislation that's soon being filed by Senator Joe Gruters and Representative Dana Trabulski. These are the things that we need. We need just a little bit of help to let people know that we are an open and a gorgeous state. The thing that this one always gets me is we've passed up billions of dollars of projects that have decided to go to other states in the last few years. And I did say billions because the impact spreads to lumber yards and hotels and everywhere. We've missed that money, and while that money didn't come to us, instead it went to places like, it went to states like Georgia, North Carolina, Louisiana, Texas, and Oklahoma. Now, I'm not here to badmouth other states, but I am here to tell you that I've seen every one of those states, and I'm telling you right now, we look better. We look better, we're more diverse, we can play anything in the world. This is a gorgeous state.
We agree.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Amen. And a little bit of help, and we are going to make sure that people see. Let's face it, we could help make the quality of visuals around the world better by showing them what we have. Thank you for your help.
We're working on that, yes.
I
know
appreciate that. I heard you
legislation's
are.
been filed, and the fact that people are representing shooting movies in other states and saying it's Florida is problematic, so we're working on it.
I am so
thank you
glad
very
that
much for your
bothers you
time.
as much as it does me.
It does. I talked to the bill sponsor yesterday. All right. Moving right along, Art Gallo, you are recognized.
Thank you, Art Gallo. I was here last year and discussed the current Florida statute 373.62, which is on water conservation and automatic sprinkler systems. I'm here again to ask for your support of Representative Smith's proposed legislation to update this poorly written statute. It's outdated, overly restrictive, and does very little to save water for irrigation. It's only focused on soil moisture systems presently. It doesn't recognize new technologies such as weather-based smart watering system. It establishes requirements for residents that aren't realistic and even feasible. Having to hire a professional engineer annually to inspect their own system is very unrealistic. Just a very bad statute, and it doesn't allow water districts to enable them to allow weather-based systems to decide when and how much to water, so it's kind of doesn't allow residents to use it to its full capability. So there's plenty of data to support this, so I'd ask that you support Representative Smith's 373.62. One other thing I'd like to discuss, I live in Winter Springs. Water runs downhill. We have 5 major creeks running through Winter Springs. Without improved statewide policy that considers the collective stormwater collection and runoff into our state's creeks, we'll only continue to see flooding increase. Let's face it, communities living upstream have no incentive to consider impacts of these our stormwater and runoff policies downstream. Our counties have no incentive to solve this either. It's a state issue. So what I'd ask is that perhaps this is worthy of some discussion at a legislature review at your level, because we can't solve it locally or even county-wise.
All right. Thank you very much. Senator Broder, you're recognized.
Hey, thank you very much. One of the 9 septic to sewer programs I mentioned was a small community grant program through the Department of Environmental Protection that's particularly for communities like Winter Springs that has a stormwater runoff problem. And so I would encourage the city of Winter Springs to apply for the grant program at the Department of Environmental Protection to address the issue.
Yeah, they're doing that, but that's not the issue I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'm talking about stormwater issues. For example, Castleberry, nothing
against Castleberry. The creeks run through them, and they have stormwater control. They open the gates during storms, which I can't blame them, and that water, where's it go? Into Winter Springs. That was in my opinion, largely responsible for what happened along Gee Creek. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
That'll be part of the review through the Department of Environmental Protection, who will work with the water management districts in between municipalities so that you don't have the unintended consequences that they're going to highlight in their application.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I mean, I think we all are well aware that in what became very problematic in Winter Springs, where I live, is people thought Hurricane Ian was going to be like Hurricane Irma, and it wasn't. And no one expected 18 inches of rain and that downstream effect. So that is statewide, with resiliency being the buzzword vernacular today. But there's what's a major and comprehensive review of resiliency, inland flooding. We're all aware of Midway. There's a whole host of other issues, but that is a new focus in the state. I think you'll be pleased, and your bill language is in drafting already.
Okay, thank
So,
you. And
thank you.
I appreciate that, and I understand the Ian, but remember, the state has had tremendous growth and continues to grow.
1,000 people a day. We got you, Art.
So those developments dump water somewhere. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Suzanne Monaco, for Medical Freedom. You are recognized.
Thank you very much, and nice to see you. I've met some of you before in person, and I was at this meeting last year speaking. My name is Suzanne Monaco, and I have been a resident of Winter Springs since July of 2021 after moving from Bend, Oregon. Since that time, I have been watching very closely and getting involved as much as I can with local political events and organizations. You can all thank my Oregon Senator for teaching me this lesson. All meetings have been a breath of fresh air, even those that do not necessarily align with my core beliefs, but I want to be open-minded and hear all sides. And the angst and attacks that I experienced in Oregon are thankfully not at the same level in Florida. But unfortunately, I do know how quickly that can all change. As much as I am relieved to be living in the free state of Florida, I just hope as you go into this next legislative session, your focus is not only on maintaining, but expanding those freedoms that we have today. We all know Governor DeSantis will not be leading forever, and I just hope you are going to focus on ensuring that the freedoms we have only get stronger. So one day when the tide changes and balance of power shifts, you can all know you did what you could while in office to protect us. So I have a few thoughts. Front of my mind is always around medical freedom, especially after what I experienced in Oregon when legislation was proposed to pretty much mirror California and kick any child out of school that was not vaccinated. No exemptions, and then living through these severe COVID lockdowns. If we don't have our control of our health and well-being, nothing else will really matter. And now we must ensure a COVID type of situation can never happen again. Enough people in this state were forced into vaccination even with the policies put in place to keep their jobs, and it should have never, ever happened in the first place. I am pleased to see the governor and Dr. Latipo put together the Public Health Integrity Committee. It's a great start, but legislation needs to be enacted to ensure bodily autonomy and informed consent can never be part of a political debate. It should always be between a person and a doctor. In Bend, Oregon today, parents still cannot go into their children's school unless they're vaccinated. Teachers must be vaccinated unless they have an exemption, and 3 teachers were fired in October. I tell you this because this is how bad things can get if overarching common sense laws are not put in place to protect citizens. Imagine as an unvaccinated parent, God forbid your child has an emergency and you cannot run into a school to help them. So I ask that you don't rest on your laurels of having a supermajority and a supportive governor, as it won't last forever. Use this time to work across the aisle, create common sense legislation that meets the needs of all Floridians and continue to protect us. We just want the freedom to make the best health decisions we can for ourselves and our family. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you very much. Rita Hoffman, you are recognized for medical freedom and illegal immigration. You've got 2 minutes. Anyone? Rita Hoffman. Okay, moving right along. Susan Geller, Florida prison reform. There we go. Save 2 minutes. All right. You're recognized.
Hi, members of the delegation. I time my speech to 3 minutes, so I'll have to either talk fast or reduce some of what I'm speaking. A brief background. I graduated from Edgewater High School in 1966. I was a Florida CPA for 35 years. I have lived in Seminole County, Sweetwater Oaks, for the past 26 years. I am speaking today as a taxpayer, a mother of an incarcerated son, and on what I know, which is numbers, dollars, and cents. The Department of Correction expenditures for 2022 was $2.6 billion, and the budget for 2023 is $3 billion. The prison population is aging, and this will be a continued increase in cost. There is a shortage of correctional officers. Our Governor DeSantis recognized this shortage and ordered 300 National Guard for $31.5 million to supplement in the Panhandle. This shortage is dangerous for guards and the incarcerated. A solution to this problem would be to reduce the number of prisoners. This would be a tax savings, make prisons safer for guards and the incarcerated. Returning citizens would help with the labor shortage. I urge you to support a 75% earn time for our incarcerated loved ones. Currently, it's 85%. To go home, lift up their families and communities. To support funding for returning citizens, to enable housing and jobs, which I believe has been spoken about before. And in summary, let our people go back to work, back to supporting their children. So the next time you ask yourself, what is the cost to incarcerate so many people? The answer is wasted tax dollars, broken homes, and crying children. And if I could go off topic for 1 second, I'd like to recognize our Sheriff Lima for his effort in the Narcan, leading in this effort, and also to you, Senator Brandis, in your effort in having the scrub jay. Having the scrub jay as our national bird. So, anyway.
Very close. All right, thank you very much.
Sorry I went over a little bit. I was prepared for 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. And Karen Stuckey, you are recognized.
Good morning, or is it afternoon? My name's Karen Stuckey, and I was born and raised here in Central Florida. And I would like to speak with you today about phone conversations in our prison. Studies have said frequent calls were linked to the lowest cost of returning to prison. And a 2014 study of incarcerated women found that those who had any phone contact with the family members were less likely to reincarcerate within the 5 years after their release. A 2020 study showed that the parents-child relationship improved when they had frequent phone calls. Given the frequency and importance of phone calls from prisons and jails, their prohibitive costs here in Florida and the loss of phone privileges as punishment are inhumane and counterproductive. As an owner of a cell phone, I pay $45 a month for unlimited calls, emails, texts, and the internet. 2 years ago, the Department of Corrections changed phone providers so they could receive more commissions, free items like cell phones, computers, surveillance equipment, etc. Let me share what I paid for the 11 months ending December 2021. My bill with GTL was $3,410. With the cost of travel, canteen, hotels, boarding my dogs, and paying to send emails, I was forced to cut back on my phone calls in 2022. My phone bill with GTL was $2,685. In the same 23-month period, when I spent a total of $6,095 on prison calls, my cell phone unlimited service cost me $1,038. JPay, who provides email service, charges me 39 cents for every mail or picture my husband and I send to each other. and Verizon doesn't charge me anything. I ask that you sponsor, co-sponsor, or vote for a telecommunication bill that would increase the number of phones available to use and would provide free minutes for the incarcerated who are leading a productive life inside. My husband is in prison for stealing 6 DVDs from a Sam's Club here in Seminole County. In 2004, he was sentenced to 30 years. He's currently in his 19th year. Housing him for 85% of the 30-year sentence will cost taxpayers over $750,000, and I am paying dearly for his crime.
Thank you very much.
Okay, can I do my quick ask?
Quickly.
I'm asking for your support on the telecommunications bill and to please visit a prison. And I would also ask that I need a meeting with the governor to try to get my husband released. And I would appreciate if you could help me with that for the Rule 17. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Aaron Keefe. You're up for 2 minutes.
Okay, I'll try to make this brief. Thank you so much. Hello, Senator Berto. I know we've spoken before. This is my first time speaking, certainly not my last. I'll try to keep it brief. I came here to advocate for my loved one who is currently incarcerated. He was given an unfair sentence of 45 years for a DUI manslaughter leaving the scene in which tragically two people lost their lives. With excessive sentences, it does nobody in this community any good. It costs taxpayers a fortune. We have no second chances here in Florida. If you go into the system, you have no second chance. I'm asking you, I'm begging you from the bottom of my heart, look at these bills that are coming up this year. We have to be able to offer second chances to good people. I'm talking about nonviolent offenders, first-time offenders, people that are not habitual prisoners, that don't go to prison like my fiance. He's never been to prison before this. He was a hardworking welder. We need welders. He would be more productive coming out on the outside and working, paying tax dollars. It does nobody any justice to leave him there for 45 years. He's already done 20 years. Even the family doesn't want him there. We have no second chances in Florida. I beg you, I pray to God to give you the strength to look at these bills. You think it doesn't affect you. It could one day, just like me. I didn't know anything about the system. I didn't know what criminal justice reform was until I was forced to be put in this situation. So I'm asking you, please, again, look at the bills that are coming up. Better yet, sponsor one, co-sponsor one, start a bill. I mean, it's just, all I want to leave you with is that think to yourselves, we're all God-loving people. What would Jesus do? Jesus would give second chances. Jesus would look at these people and say, I will give you grace and mercy. Locking people up, warehousing people for life is not the solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nicholas Kornblue, you are up. Recognized.
Good morning. My name is Nick Kornblue. I'm an assistant supervisor with the Seminole County Sheriff's Office Communications Division. I've been with the agency for about 12 years now. First of all, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for the opportunity to speak today and voice my support for the inclusion of 911 public safety telecommunicators as it pertains, as first responders, as it pertains to Florida Statute 112.1815, which is not Florida Statute 121 dealing with retirement and benefits. Supporting it as we push forward towards the Senate, as the bill, like we said earlier, already has a sponsor in the House. Currently, public safety telecommunicators, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, are classified as office and administrative support occupations, which would include a mail carrier, accountants, secretaries. And while these are all important fields, they don't require the same specialized skills, trainings, and qualifications. All of those situations have to be done with the highest degree of accuracy, as any negligence could be the difference between life and death. These critical instructions and decisions are made consistently each and every day by these men and women. For the 2022 year, the Sheriff's Office received approximately 207,000 incoming 911 emergency calls from citizens. Figuring down to a 24-hour period for every single day of the year, that would be 25 calls every hour, every single day for an entire 365-day year that the citizens are reaching out to those men and women. Now, the vast majority of those people that are making those calls are probably having one of the worst days of their lives, and any of these telecommunicators regularly take any number of calls, and they always have to be ready for what comes next. It could be a physical altercation, a mother whose child's not breathing, or even being the last person someone talks to before they take their own life. The push for inclusion has to start now. The future only holds more challenges for our industry. Next generation 911 will include photo and video, further subjecting these public safety telecommunicators to graphic visuals, in addition to their fast-paced nature already. We hope that you will support the bill moving forward and take care of the men and women that take care of us. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Amanda Stamp, you are recognized.
Hello. My name is Amanda Stamp, and I'm here to talk to you about the need to include public safety telecommunicators as first responders per the Florida Statute 112.1815 and not Florida Statute 121, the retirement statute. I've been a Seminole County resident for almost 4 years. I moved here to be a public safety telecommunicator, and when a car accident caused spinal injuries and took away my ability to dispatch anymore, I stayed because I love Seminole County. I'm hoping you all will reaffirm my love for this county and its people the way Representative Holcomb and Representative Barrero are supporting their constituents. We are looking for a senator to champion this change to include all of our first responders. For over a decade, I was a dispatcher. I've dispatched for city, county, and state levels. I even got the chance to dispatch for a federal agency at a small event called Burning Man. So I have some crazy stories if you ever want to chat. I provide this background to say I offer a varied perspective. I see from a lot of angles, and here's what I see. I currently live with 2 public safety telecommunicators for Seminole County agencies. One was Seminole County Sheriff and one was Seminole County Fire. During Hurricane Ian, while everyone was home, buckled down, safe with their families, these 2 and countless other first responders were at work, answering call after call, listening to people at their worst moments possible as they found their dad electrocuted in the water-filled garage and CPR was started. Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're doing great. Keep going. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the next call comes in and it's somebody asking when the power will be back on. These amazing humans answered those calls back to back to back, taking quick breaks to try to shoot a text to their own loved ones, hoping they respond, while they shove a bite of now cold food in their mouths and down their next energy drink and try to race to have a potty break all in 5 minutes or less. This is not a unique experience. We live in Florida, we have hurricanes. This happens statewide for almost every agency when a hurricane comes through. Public safety telecommunicators sleeping in their comm center for days on end to ensure someone is there to answer those calls. These are not administrative duties. These are not secretarial roles. These are hours away from families, traumas experienced firsthand by true first responders that are the voice in the comm, and they deserve to be included with their fellow brothers and sisters in red and blue. Thank you again for your time and have a safe week.
Thank you. Jessica Tillman, you're recognized for 2 minutes and 2 minutes only.
Good morning. Thank you for listening to us. I apologize, I left my notes at home, so I'm flying off the cuff here. I am a mother of 4. I have 4 small children. They're school-aged. One has a diagnosed disability. So I support everything that Barbara Beasley will be saying after me. She says it much better than I. But for medical freedom is very important to me. I'm a born Floridian. I have been in Seminole County for almost 10 years now. We moved here because of the natural choice. So we want to take statute 381.00315, which is forced quarantine and forced treatment, out of our laws. We should not have government agencies, especially people that are not voted in by us, in charge of mandating any medical procedure on any Floridian. We also would like the removal of Florida Statute 768.381. This statute is the hospital indemnity provision. That needs to be removed as well. I also would like to, we would like to amend statute 847.012. We would like to remove harmful to minors. That is up for interpretation, and the loophole is that nothing is really harmful to minors. So we would really like that removed. Amendment 847.001, excuse me. 7, remove the words when it, remove sections A through C, and remove section 12. We would like amend HB 0007. We would like an opt-in to the sex ed instead of an opt-out. We'd like amendments to HB 1467 to say that school board terms should be only 2 terms, so 8 years. We'd also like amendments to 1557 to expand to K through 12 as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Barbara Beasley, good to see you again, and you brought a friend.
Good morning. My name's Barbara Beasley. I am a policy advocate for those with developmental disabilities, and I'd like to introduce you to my lovely homeschooled and future taxpayer daughter, Emily Beasley. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and I wanted to start out with some numbers. Currently, the Department of Education reports that roughly 23%, and that's consistent with Seminole County Public Schools, of our students have a diagnosed disability. There's currently approximately 55,000 students receiving the Family Empowerment Scholarship for Unique Abilities. And I say roughly because there are literally thousands of students that are currently waitlisted that should have been funded outside of the cap. Additionally, I've personally worked with students or families in 11 counties, including Seminole, Osceola, Orange, and Volusia counties, whose student is currently attending a public or a public charter school while receiving scholarship funding. The parents, unless they understand how to read the statute, believe that they are able to have this additional money to fund their student, and they're using it for expensive therapies like ABA, purchasing technology, tutors, etc. Step Up for Students, one of the 2 SFOs in charge of it, has apparently told several of those families to go ahead and keep the funds. My question to all of you is that coming out of their fee, or is there a public school that is not receiving funding while the student is attending? A few years ago, the legislature tried very hard to simplify school choice and the scholarships that are available to families. In doing so, there have been some unintended consequences that not only continue to harm families of special needs students, but have grown exponentially with the merger of the Gardner and McKay scholarships. Some of the examples I've spoken with all of you about, so I won't beat a dead horse. There are some legislative fixes that need to be applied. And what I'd just like to do is say, let's cement the success of school choice by repairing what doesn't work. With numerous laws, we have recognized the rights and responsibilities of parents to direct their children's educations. Let's make that reality apparent for parents utilizing the FESUA scholarship by making the scholarships accessible and user-friendly for parents. Let's ensure that the products and services that public school students can access are just as accessible for the scholarship. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And Senator Broder, you're recognized.
Ms. Beasley, look for a fix for some of the unintended consequences. I make no warranties or representations, and it probably won't have my name on it, but watch for it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Richard and Judy Wagner, you're recognized. We got 3 more, and be okay if you use less than 2 minutes. You're on.
Okay.
You're recognized.
First, I want to thank you for inviting all of us and allowing us to speak to you directly, and congratulations on your recent elections. I'm very, very happy to see you all in office. All right. You've received a summary from one of our son, James's psychologist. Our son is autistic. You should have also received the denial letter from Agencies for Peoples with Disabilities, APD. There appears to be a disconnection between the determination and reality. Unfortunately, James's disability precludes him from independently managing his affairs. If nothing is done, when we are no longer here and unable to take care of him, he will die in squalor, on the streets, hungry, suffering, and in pain. The problem is lack of money. Currently, there's approximately 22,000 people on the waiting list. APD does not want to increase the size of this list. The dastardly choice to deny the defenseless, the very people APD is charged with helping, is depraved and demonstrates that APD is a bureaucracy run amok. Money issues should be solved by increasing efficiency and/or securing additional funds. I'm going to summarize this. I have a lot of ideas on how to get this accomplished, on how to stretch each Medicare dollar. So I'm going to have them enumerated, but we're going to avoid them. Today, APD employs a team of lawyers whose mission it is to win at any cost. The hearing officer's schedules are booked for months in advance, indicating massive volume of cases. An exorbitant number of resources are being spent to deny the most vulnerable. Right now, these monies are employing able-bodied lawyers, psychologists, and government bureaucrats who would rather disenfranchise the disabled than have the courage to face the problem. The heartless practice of denying disabled people must end. Thank you for your time. We look forward to working with you and advancing the concerns of those with the smallest voices.
Thank you very much. And J.J. Holmes, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
I'm going to ask for 3 because it takes him hours to type out what he's typed out. We've got it timed to 3 minutes. He just couldn't
Go.
in the 3 minutes do it.
All right, so, well, without objection, Senator Bruder moves that we extend our meeting by 15 minutes. So you are recognized.
Can that be moved? Okay, well, you're going to have to hit and then...
My name is J.J. Holmes. I'm here to talk about how you won't fund Florida's budget waiver program. I've been on Florida's budget waiver waiting list for disability services for 16 years. Florida's funding for budget is ranked 49th for per capita spending on services for people with disabilities. How can you go around saying Florida is the freest state when there's only one state that treats their severely disabled community worse than Florida? And in Florida, the only way you get disability services is if you're in a crisis. Do you know what a crisis is? I can tell you what a crisis isn't. In Florida, when you're disabled, a crisis isn't if you can't go to college because there's no one to go with you. In Florida, when you're disabled, a crisis isn't if you have to stay in bed all day because there's no one to lift you into your wheelchair. In Florida, when you're disabled, a crisis isn't if your mother dies or if your father dies. If you're severely disabled in the freest state, then both parents have got to die. Then, and only then, will it be considered a crisis and you'll get help. The only other way someone like me will get disability services in the freest state is if I become homeless. Homeless? It doesn't make sense. But in Florida, that's what's got to happen before I'll get disability services. 2 dead parents are being homeless. That's how bad your life has to be before you'll get help in Florida. You guys are sitting on a $23 billion surplus, and we're 49th for funding people with disabilities. Without disability services, I'm going to be forced to live in a state-run institution, even though if I got just a little help, I could continue to live at home with a family that loves me. Please, 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 don't force me into an institution for the rest of my life. Thank you for listening.
All right, well, thank you for that powerful public testimony. Allison Holmes. You're recognized.
The Med Waiver or iBudget Waiver program that JJ just spoke about provides services so people like JJ can continue to live at home instead of going into a state-run institution. And it's way cheaper than an institution. There's about 35,000 Floridians with disabilities currently getting services through the iBudget Waiver. And that sounds great, right? Until you find out there's almost 23,000 severely disabled Floridians on the wait list. Kids have died on the wait list before getting services. If you continue to defund the program, then pretty soon there's going to be more people waiting for services than there are getting services. When Jeb Bush was governor, he cleared the wait list completely. Caring for JJ has significantly transformed our family, and there's no relative or friend that we could expect to take on the back-breaking responsibility of our son's physical care when my husband and I die. Whereas if JJ had aids and services in place through the waiver program, we absolutely could ask someone to take on that sort of responsibility. As the years roll by on the wait list, it looks like the only solution for me is to somehow outlive my son. A few years ago, I was told something that haunts me. Due to the level of care JJ requires, it's very likely when I die, he'll be placed in an institution for seniors who have impairments. Employees in these places are chronically overworked and understaffed, and I was told taking my son to the restroom would be a problem. He'd likely have to wear a diaper instead. Oh, and apparently the residents in these institutions are just sat in front of a TV all day, every day. JJ graduates high school in May. He plans to go to college this fall to study political science. He's the president of the Democratic Club at his high school. He's a member of the Tiger Bay Club. He was a messenger in Tallahassee last year. He wrote an op-ed that was published in the Orlando Sentinel. But his quality of life isn't really relevant, is it? My hope is that you'll have a change of heart this session and fund the Med Waiver or iBudget Waiver program. You see, no mother wants to pray every day that she outlives her child, but at present, that's all I can do. And I'd like if one of you or all of you would commit right now to fully funding the Med Waiver or iBudget Waiver this year. No, I guess.
Thank you very much for your time.
I can respond to it. I don't think anybody's opposed to that at all. I mean, this makes a ton of sense, but we cannot commit 156 other colleagues' votes on the behalf. And so I'm happy to say I'll do it, but...
No, I'm just asking for your personal commitment.
Yeah, absolutely. Every year I have, absolutely.
This, I mean, it goes through the legislative process. That's why there's committees. It's great to have you back up in Tallahassee this coming session. Excellent.
And please make a point to testify in front of the Senate Health and Human Services Committee.
It makes a difference when you do come to Tallahassee and you can give a personal account, a boots on the ground perspective. It's a lot more effective than I think some people really give it credit for. Okay, Ezekiel, that ends our public comment. We have no other cards that we swedged into.
The folder on the side has.
Who do we have? The ones I have are blank.
Nope, they're there.
Oh. Mary Kate Denizio? All right. And then we'll have Junior Achievement next, and then Robert Eichelberger. There we go. All right, we're into overtime. You are recognized.
Thank you. I will be quick. I'm here today to ask for your support in overturning the Florida statute 768.21. My name is Mary Kate Denisio, and I've been a Florida resident for 36 years. living in Orange County and Seminole County for 25. My father passed away on October 30th to what I believe was gross negligence on behalf of a hospital in Palm Beach County. The hospital gave my father hepatitis C in a routine gallbladder procedure. It was followed by several misdiagnoses while he was experiencing rapid liver and kidney failure. On his last day, the doctors pulled IVs and attempted to discharge him, stating he just needed rehab. My brother and I knew something was wrong and protested the discharge. Sorry. He was severely weak, he couldn't walk, he was dehydrated, malnourished, although the hospital failed to see it. That very night, he went into cardiac arrest. Please make no mistake, these doctors know they have a free kill patient. And I'm terribly sorry that's what this law is called. The free kill law passed 30 years ago prevents me from having the ability to hold those physicians in this hospital accountable for malpractice that took my father's life. The law states I'm too old. I am silenced without access to law. Please imagine another scenario where a doctor has 2 martinis at lunch and runs a stop sign and kills your 26-year-old child. You can sue for damages. You can conduct a proper investigation and get justice. But let's say that same doctor goes out to lunch, has 2 martinis, operates on your 26-year-old, and kills your child. This law prevents you from doing anything about it. Please, I ask for your support. I have to rely on your expertise. I'm very new at this. I've never met a senator before. This is lovely. Please, I need your support in overturning this law. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Katie Brown, Junior Achievement, you're recognized for 2 minutes.
Hi, good morning. My name is Katie Brown. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Junior Achievement of Central Florida. If you are not familiar with Junior Achievement, we work with the public school system and provide class supplementals, experiential learning for students in the areas of financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and career readiness. We work in 5 counties. Our area works in 5 counties. We cover Osceola, Orange, Seminole, Lake, and Volusia counties. We are in the middle of a period of rapid growth for our office, which we are really excited about and we've worked really hard for. Just for an example, last year in the school year 21 to 22, we served 35,000 students in our 5-district area and for over 700,000 hours of programming and curriculum. This year, we have already served 47,000 students and over 800,000 hours of programming, and we are halfway through the school year. So we have really, thanks to, in large part, to Governor DeSantis's financial literacy bill, Senate Bill 1045, we've really seen some support from the state in the need for financial literacy for students. What we're asking for is some financial support as well. What differentiates our nonprofit organization from for-profit curriculum programs is the fact that we have access to the business community and we bring business professionals into the class to teach these lessons to students. And that's why we have been so successful in our 5 districts. But with this exponential growth of need in the area for financial literacy education, I'm here with Lisa Blackwelder, who's our Chief Philanthropy Officer, and she raises money with the best of them, but we can't keep up with the need for our area. And I think you'll all join me in agreeing that we do need students that are coming out of public schools to have more financial literacy skills and entrepreneur experience as well. So that's what we're asking. We'd like to have your support for that, and we'll reach out to all of you individually as well and have you come out to our facilities. Thank you.
All right, and last on the hit parade, Robert Eichelberger, you are recognized for 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Representative Smith. It's good to see you again. I saw you at the Pearl Harbor celebration at the VFW this last month. My wife and I are here on behalf of our son, who is an incarcerated inmate in the Florida Department of Corrections. I've whittled my remarks down, but I've provided in writing so that you can see the details of the case. But he was sentenced under the Prison Releasee Reoffender Statute, Florida Statute 775082, which my wife and I would like the legislature to take another look at as to its fairness. First, it does not consider the seriousness of the previous charge or the duration of the previous sentence. It's just whether he or she was in prison before. In our son's case, his 5-month prison sentence was assigned after a parole violation upon being released from the Osceola County Jail for a nonviolent crime. He is now serving a day-for-day, without chance of parole, 30-year sentence as dictated by this statute. And it is our hope that during this legislative term, you will drive a change in the statute to restore sentencing discretion to judges so that the sentences can be fair and can equitably address both the safety and the public and justice for the offenders. It is our further hope that any revision would require a review of all cases that have been adjudicated under this current 2017 version of the Florida State Statute. The second concern we have is with drugs in our prisons. My son has been in 5 institutions in the last 4 years, and the one common theme that comes out of our discussions with him is just the readily available illegal drug traffic that's going on in the prisons. It is our hope that the current legislature, with the support of the governor, will consider this issue and determine what new laws and processes should be instituted to end the drug trade that plagues our current correction system. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Okay, final remarks. Certainly been a lot to take in, and we'll just, Senator Broder, why don't you lead us off with any final remarks, and we'll go around the table.
Sure. Thanks to all who came out to provide perspective on this year's legislative session. Mechanically, we have more committee weeks this year than we've had in years past, and so what that means is we are gone to Tallahassee much more before session than we have in the years prior to that. That said, I know all of us will be are still able to be reached, whether it's by phone, by email. Our staffs are here. We all have a permanent staff member assigned to the area. We all have staff that are in Tallahassee, and so even if you didn't get a chance to speak today or make the case, or even driving home you remember something you wish you had said even though you didn't get a chance to say it here, we'll be able to receive that information prior to session as long as you just email us or give us a call. And so thanks to everyone that came out, and we look forward to working on the business of the state coming up.
Thank you. Representative Placencia.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you all for sharing your stories. It's good to listen, and I would like to speak to some of you, and if any of you would like to speak to me, again, I'm available. I have my district aide here, Daniel Elliott, as well as Victor Martinez, my legislative aide, and I'd like to hear more about your concerns and get a few more details, and I thank you all for the time that you took to come here today.
Thank you. Rep. Plakin.
I want to thank you all for sharing your needs and concerns, and God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, and I think it's really important to listen. This is a very valuable forum, very valuable time. Please feel free to contact me, my aide Javan Gordon, or Michael Alpert, and we will be happy to meet with you again and help you.
Rep. Blank.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, just to echo all of these comments, it really is beneficial and helpful to us because we are here as your representatives to know what the needs are, the rubber meets the road issues. Obviously, there's a varying degree of opinions on all of these things. We take all these things to heart because we want to reflect the whole and to do what's best for the people. It's an honor to be able to serve, and it's very valuable. It's nice that our district doesn't just stop at a county line because compassion and common sense don't stop at different county lines. So to hear these issues is grateful. I'm grateful to hear those. And my aides again are here, Nicole and Crystal, and we're here available to you. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And again, just to reiterate what Rep. Plakin said, 2 ears, 1 mouth. We spend a lot of time listening, and we hear issues from the community. We hear issues from agencies. Oftentimes, the agency is about money. And thankfully, because our economy's been open in Florida throughout these tough times, when foreign tourism, other things, we got some revenue to spend. Of course, Hurricane Ian, Nicole, and others will take some some of that, but we've got some options. It's a lot easier to address critical issues that come from the public or government agencies or county agencies when you've got money. It's a whole lot different when you don't have the money. So I'm excited and optimistic about the upcoming legislative session, that many of the structural changes that we're going to make in environment, in education, in services, to, whether it's individuals with disabilities or our elderly population in Florida, which continues to grow, that we'll be addressing many of those things. I think we've got, with Senator Pasadomo, Senate President, and Speaker Paul Renner in the House, a motivated team. I think the governor's going to be a great partner with the legislature and move Florida forward. I can tell you, and I'm sure with many of these people, and I'll wrap up because we got 2 minutes, is you'll see the degree of effectiveness, because whether it's Barbara Beasley and her daughter Emily that I've met in my office here, we've met in Tallahassee. Katrina Shaddix and I have worked and passed legislation together that came from a constituent issue. Others, whether it's the sheriff or school board members, that they're raising issues. They don't just come here right before session. It's building a relationship with your representatives and your senators so we understand the issue, and when you come to Tallahassee, that you're saying, you remember when you came to our agent or our facility and you took that tour, or I came to your office and we briefed you about this issue, and then we see you in Tallahassee and you're saying, and Representative so-and-so is running this bill in the House, Senator so-and-so has it in the Senate, here's what we've done. That's the way you advocate for change. You can come here and say, shake your fist and say it should be different, but if you don't have ideas, if you don't bring a solution, you just throw it on us. And we work it through a committee staff. Again, you see a lot of good legislation that comes from the community, and keep it up. We're better representatives of you, of the community in Tallahassee when we have the connectivity. So don't be strangers. That's why I made it, asked each of us up on the dais to make sure that you know where our offices are, you know who our district aide is, because you don't just have to talk to us. We have staff to connect with you, and we're happy to serve. And seeing no other business before the delegation, Representative Bankson moves that we adjourn.
So moved.
Thanks for